It's time for an inside look at the most powerful motorsport on the planet. WFO Radio, NHRA Nitro.
It's the most exciting sport on earth as far as I'm concerned.
Take a walk through the Nitro pits as we go one-on-one with the stars of drag racing.
Hi, I'm Courtney Forrest.
I'm Tony Schumacher.
Hey, you're with Matt Hagan.
This is Ron Capps, Matt Hagan's personal friend. You're on WFO.
Featuring the NHRA's Alan Reinhart.
Our events are truly an experience. They're not just a spectator event. They are an experience.
So get in, sit down, and hold on with host Joe Castello as he goes WFO.
Thanks, brother. Always love being on WFO, baby. Nobody brings it to you better than you, brother.
Now crank it up. It's time to go WFO. Here's your host, Joe Castello.
What's up, NHRA fans? Welcome back to WFO Radio, NHRA Nitro. If you are a first-time podcast listener, welcome to you. My name's Joe Castello, and I am happy to have you. We've got a great guest list on this week's show as we get ready for the Denso 4-Wide at the Strip in Las Vegas. Last week's show, my goodness, we had all the winners from the Amalie Motor Oil NHRA Gator Nationals, and I'm talking about Robert Height, I'm talking about Richie Crampton, Bo Butner, Randy Lynn. They were all on the show. It was really cool, and I got a lot of positive feedback. But it got me thinking, well, what about this week's show? Clay Millican, that big runner-up out there at Gainesville, was so meaningful for so many reasons. He came off his best season in the NHRA 1 year ago, I would say, and lost his whole team. And what were they going to do? And instead, they went to work and they rebounded and they grew the team and they expanded the ownership group and they brought in Mike Klober and they made a final round at the Gator Nationals. How cool is that? We're going to speak with Clay. Clay will be on the show, and Clay is going to break a little news. Also on the show, Tommy Johnson Jr. TJ made it to the final round in Vegas 1 year ago, turned on the big red evil eye, right? But that's not what the story is. The story is Tommy Johnson is running well here at the start of 2019, but they are experiencing some catastrophic failures. Lost by a couple of 10,000ths of a second in Gainesville, but did they sort out the problem? Have they figured it all out? They've blown up 3 bodies already. I love to speak with racers and crew chiefs and race teams when they are not experiencing the glory of victory, when they are working hard through a challenge, because I know they're going to get out of it. I know they're going to get out of it, and when they do, I want to be able to look back and say, remember when they struggled? What was going on there? And follow the full arc back to success. And so we're going to hear from Tommy Johnson Jr. on this show. Also on the show, Jacob Sundstrom from NHRA National Dragster. He is an associate editor there and has created the power rankings you're seeing on the television show and on the web, the power rankings that rate the drivers in their categories based on many statistical factors, not just wins and points. How did that all come about? Jacob is going to be on the show to explain it, the methodology, why it's important, and what factors go in to creating NHRA's power rankings. I think it is cool. I like it because it gives us something additional to think about and debate. And for fans out there to say, hey, my driver or my team's ahead of your team for whatever reason, I really believe NHRA needs more of that. Certainly we're seeing it during March Madness, where people rally behind their teams for reasons that they have that are close and personal and passionate about. Well, drag racing is just the same. We've got to give more information for people to debate and talk about, and that's one of the reasons why you've clicked on this show, because we're going to give you information, some fodder for you Tommy Johnson Jr. fans, and some fodder for you Clay Millican fans to root for your guy over everybody else. Also on the show, someone that I'm always rooting for, Marvin Rodak from RodaksCoffeeandGrills.com. And I know what you're thinking. Isn't that one of the sponsors, Joe? And the answer is yes. But he is also a lifelong drag racing fan who has now began to transition into crew member. He is working and turning wrenches and doing stuff on some teams out there as often as he can and getting drafted into other stuff. So this past weekend, Marvin was out there in Texas at North Star Dragway and was on the crew for an event called Funny Car Chaos. And since we really try very, very hard to connect with the grassroots of the sport and make sure everybody knows it's not just multi-million-dollar teams and sponsors, it's you. It's me. We love drag racing. So what was it like? What was Marvin's experience? How did they do? What went down? He's going to join us during my time at the tail end of the show as we get ready for Vegas. So Marvin Rodak, Jake Sundstrom, Tommy Johnson, Clay Millican, all on the show, plus Alan Reinhart just moments away. But it's all brought to you by these fine folks. This show is sponsored, and thank goodness, because we would not be able to do it. It's as simple as that. These sponsors make the show happen. And so, if you need cat spot litter, for instance, we encourage you to let them know you heard about it on WFO Radio. Catspotlitter.com is the place to do it, or magicdryus.com. The way I like to say it, and Scott Palmer has got me up to speed on this, and I think it is great. If you have a factory, if you have an oil rig, if you've got a giant shop, if you've got a shop, you're going to want to use magicdryus.com. If you've got a cat, if you've got kitties, if you're doing a pet shelter, you're going to want catspotlitter.com. But the bottom line is they're made out of the same thing, and they both do a great job. Also on the show, Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School, the Dragster Adventure. Frank Hawley educates and gets many of today's great drivers and champion drivers up to speed, as you know. But he's got a program called the Dragster Adventure, which is what I tell my audience about. I think that you would love to drive a dragster, and you maybe don't know where or how to get that done. And Frank Hawley's got a whole program that goes all around the country for fans like you who want to experience what it's like to go fast and quick, rapidly on a drag strip with the engine behind you and be instructed by Frank Hawley. Go to frankhawley.com to find out more. The aforementioned Rodak's Coffee and Grills.com, Marvin Rodak /crew member. Gourmet coffee and hot sauce and spice rub, everything good. It's going to make your life more fun and better, and just you'll appreciate everything a little bit more when you start the day with Rodak's Coffee. I certainly do. Samtech.edu, the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. Brian Massengill and that family over there educating our next generation of machinists, CNC machinists, high-performance engine builders. It is great. They have got students and graduates placed throughout the racing industry. They also support the Samtech Factory Stock Showdown, which we have created a special podcast. There are 4 episodes waiting for you right now. Just search Factory Stock Podcast on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, and there are 4 episodes, and it's the kind of thing that it's evergreen. The whole point is now we've got one race in the books. You can go back and listen to all 4 episodes. The preseason, the pre-race, the race recap, the race winner, and stories of the race, meaning Drew Skillman, David Barton, and others on that first show. So check it out, Factory Stock Podcast, brought to you by the folks at samtech.edu, where you can learn to become a high-performance engine builder. Motorsportsguys.com, Terry McMillan's new mail order venture. If you need Amalie motor oil by mail with the filter for your next oil change or for your top fuel team, go to motorsportsguys.com. They also have K&N filters, all kinds of high-performance parts, pieces, etc. at motorsportsguys.com. Big thanks to Terry for supporting WFO Radio. And Hankstafers, metalworking lubricants. Since 1937, Dr. Hankstafer has been making machine shop work more efficient, more precise, making tools live longer. Check them out, hankstafers.com and audible.com/WFO Nitro. Start your 30-day free trial. That is audible.com/WFO Nitro. HusseyPerformance.net copperhead gaskets. Sean Bellemere uses them. Sean Bellemere is a world record holder. Sean Bellemere is the world champion. Sean Bellemere is the Gator Nationals winner, was on the show 1 week ago. Uses HusseyPerformance.net. You should too. Check them out for quality copper head gaskets. And there you have it. The folks that help out WFO Radio, including, Drag Racing Edge Magazine and EV3 Drag Racing for your mobile device. All kinds of good stuff going on cross-promotionally. But right now, let's get into it. Joining us now, he is the voice of the NHRA and will be calling the action at the Denso 4-Wide Nationals, the second 4-Wide race in Vegas ever. Alan Reinhart joins us now. Alan, welcome back.
I'm not nearly as concerned at calling the action as I am at calling a meeting. We do not need 2 weeks off after Gainesville. I don't know about you. I've been going stir crazy.
Well, that is true. I have been looking forward to getting back out there, but NASCAR's new schedule has kind of changed my future outlook about that. Next year, the Homestead Miami Speedway race will be the week after the Gator Nationals, so let's not change anything for next year at very least. How about that?
Well, 1 week off is fine. We just don't need 2 weeks off. 2 weeks off this early in the season is too long. Everybody's just kind of hitting their stride and getting in the swing of things, and it's like, okay, take an extended timeout. and 2 weeks is just too long.
You're right. No, you are absolutely correct in that everyone that I have spoken with has been like, they want to go. They finally got their stuff figured out and are getting into some sort of a groove, and now we stop. But the good news is, after this weekend, we're going pretty well for the rest of the year.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be ramping it up. There's, not another 2-week break until when? For me, Christmas, I think. So I guess maybe getting it out of the way earlier in the season is not all bad. But I'm looking forward to getting back out there, and especially after last year, the West Coast fans I think pretty much made their voice heard what they think of 4-wide. They all wanted to come out and see it once, and I certainly hope they're all going to want to come out and see it again, because last year was a heck of a show, and I expect this year to be just as good or better.
No, I agree completely, and I am wondering, Jeff Foster, great mutual friend, did such a great job thrashing to get that thing done, and when we got there, everybody talked about how it was the smoothest track on the tour. It was a sold-out race. People came in from all around. But not everybody went. There are still a lot of fans out there who maybe were waiting for feedback, right? Like, all right, what was it like? And they got to hear word of mouth. So I'm expecting, I haven't heard any numbers or any pre-sale. I have heard nothing. But I am expecting an event that is big, maybe not a sellout, but I expect a lot of people to continue to go in year 2.
Well, as long as we've got good weather, I think that we're going to be fine. And that's the one thing now I'm really wishing for. 3 races into the season, and all 3 of them had some kind of a weather effect. I'd like to just have 3 nice, sunny, warm, but not hot days. And, don't turn the fans on in Vegas, because we all know it can get pretty windy out there and blustery in the middle of the desert. But give us 3 good weather days, and I think we're going to be just fine. I think the fans that came last year, I believe the vast majority of them will want to come back. And I think you're right. I think the ones that were waiting for feedback, there wasn't a whole lot of negatives after last year. It was a good race. It was an exciting race. It was fun, and I'm ready to go again.
It occurs to me, though, how many new surfaces have been put down in the NHRA recently, which is part of a bigger story of growth and investment. Vegas, a huge one, adding the 2 additional lanes, but then Richmond, of course, and Norwalk, and then Gainesville. Going into Gainesville, I had heard, some people suggesting like, oh man, I don't know. But we interviewed everybody. I spoke with every winner, and they all said very smooth, loved the track, got it going on. So now we're collecting these really great flat racetracks. But Vegas, year 2 back out there was really, I think, what started off this run of extremely flat, near perfect tracks.
Well, I think it's starting a trend. When you've got the number of tracks that have made the investment like that, whether it's an independent like Richmond or an independent like Norwalk, obviously Vegas is corporately owned by SMI, and Charlotte also is a very good, very smooth surface. NHRA owned Gainesville. They made the investment down there. And at this point, if you are a track owner or operator, you don't want to be the one where you go, last week the track was great and this one sucks. And so I think I think the investment that's been made is kind of spurring some of the other tracks. If you've got maybe a 3-year plan or a 5-year plan to come in and do a new surface, maybe you move that up to a next year plan simply for that reason, because everybody else is making it, and you don't want to be the one that they point at when they say, well, all these tracks are good except Joe's. Come on, Joe, get with the program.
Exactly. Well, exactly. It's like, well, mine's the one with the character, Alan. That's the one where the crew chiefs gives them an additional challenge with the ski jump around 60 feet out. But no, everyone said Vegas was super flat. All right, let's talk a little bit about 4-wide racing. I am going to and try to avoid the, what do you think of 4-wide deal, even though I do mention it a few times on the show. But I feel like people have decided now, and the vote is that enough people like it twice a year. And so now it is more about who's good at this. And when I think about who's good at this, Steve Torrence has proven he's really good at this. And he needs it right now, because, boy, I wonder, is Steve like thinking, thank goodness we got a 4-wide drag race this weekend, because he's got a really good shot to go get his first win in 2019.
He's won the last 3 4-wide races, and that goes across both racetracks and, obviously back over a year ago. So, yeah, he seems to have a pretty good formula for that. Of course, it's not like he sucks at the 2-wide racing. He seems to have a pretty good formula for that, too. I don't know if you can call it a slow start. He's got a great race car. He came up a little bit short on a, pedaling hole shot in Pomona. Phoenix was just a throwaway race, and his dad picked up the ball there. Gainesville, he had a really good race car, just came out on the wrong end of a good race. I don't think he's going anywhere. He's going to be here all year, but you're right about one thing. He certainly wouldn't mind busting his way back into the winner's circle. And remember, in Vegas, you get showgirls in the winner's circle, so there's a little extra incentive there.
So many extra incentives. It seems like a long time ago that I had not gone to Vegas. And remember telling you those stories? Yeah, this is my first time in Vegas. I'd never seen the track. Jeff Foster giving me the drive around tour and everything. Now I've been there enough times to realize that, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't been to Vegas, this is one of the, if not the best venue on the tour for 100 different reasons. And one is the showgirls in the winner's circle, but two is the best restaurants in the world within a few minute drive. Three is like it's a great facility top to bottom. The racing is great. But my few times there have all been memorable, whether it be the autograph session that happens at New York, or the extra things that go around. The fact that I can go to the Peppermill for breakfast before work, like Vegas has quickly become one of my favorite races.
Yeah, there's obviously, there's a lot of people that like the city for the other strip that it's famous for and for all the amenities that it has. But the racetrack is absolutely first class. What Jeff Foster and his guys have done out there. Chris Powell, of course, is the president of Speedway, and it's an SMI property. So there's so many good pluses about Vegas. You're going to park spectators. You're going to park on the asphalt. You're not going to pay to park. They've got plenty of room out there, plenty of space. All of the competitors are going to be pitted on asphalt. There's a crossover tunnel if your tickets are on the east side of the track, which is the spectator side, as it were. There's also a huge campground over there if you want to come out and just bring your camper. I couldn't tell you what they've got as far as availability at this late date, but a lot of fans will come out with a motorhome or a camper, rent a spot out there, and you literally set up camp within 50 yards of the racetrack. So if all you're interested in is, let's say, the pro cars and the alcohol cars, in between, you can run back to your motorhome and make lunch, or just kind of take a break for a little bit if that's what you want to do. If all you're interested in is the sportsman cars, same thing. You can, whenever you want to take a break, you can just walk back over to wherever your coach is set up, and it's just very convenient, very well laid out, and they've got a tremendous staff that'll take care of whatever it is you need there. So it's probably about a 50-50 race, I guess. Some races we go into, like use Phoenix just for instance, for the races that we've had this year.
Sure.
The vast majority of our Phoenix fans are Arizona-based. There are a number that come up from Tucson. There are a few that maybe come down from Flagstaff, but the vast majority of the fans that go to that race are Arizona fans that are coming out to see the show because it's in their backyard. In Gainesville, because Gainesville is a college town, and it is not a huge population center, I'd say the vast majority, or definitely better than 50% of the fans in Gainesville, came to Gainesville for the race. It's a destination race. We are planning a trip to Florida because of the Gator Nationals. Now, while we're there, we may go to Disney, or we may go to Don Garlett's shop, or we may go to wherever, but we are coming in for the race. It's a destination race. And I think Vegas is about a 50-50. We certainly have a lot of local fans that come there, but we also have a lot of fans that use the NHRA event as an excuse to go to Vegas. But yeah, I'm going to go out and watch the four wide. Yeah, I'm going to check out the action. But they always schedule the races to end early enough in the day that if you want to go have a nice dinner, you can. If you want to go down to the other strip and you want to try your luck on the tables, you can. They're not going to keep you there at the racetrack until midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning and just kind of ruin the Vegas experience for you. So I think it's about a 50-50 race.
Yeah, I agree. I don't live out there. I know there are a lot of locals. I know a lot of the locals. But for me, coming back from the track and rolling into the whole, the strip atmosphere, that's something that makes me happy, even if I just am standing around on the corner just looking at, I know people are having fun, right? Most of them. Some are not, but most of them are having fun. I think it is a nice mix of the reasons. I never thought I would like it. I want to keep my drag racing separate from my Vegas experience, but they can both live in the same universe at the same time. So let's talk about four-wide drag racing. Very different in that your opponent is beating you, but you cannot quit. And that is very unique to four-wide drag racing, and it's something we have learned over the years. Even if you're smoking the tires in eliminations, you really should keep going, because you don't know what's going on in the other two lanes. Even if the guy right next to you has gone right down the racetrack, you got to try to will it down the track because maybe you can advance by finishing second.
That's exactly the story of Four Wide. I went up there last year, actually. The Strip had me come up and put together a little Four Wide 101 video that you can still find. I'm sure there's a link on their website. It's on YouTube, that talks about the differences in Four Wide and the fact that you don't have to win, you have to advance. You can finish second and still go on, and that's why, as you said, you can't give up on race day.
Yeah, very interesting. And what I'm also noticing is that it seems like there are racers who know that other racers are out of their comfort zone, right? Like maybe they don't like it, but they don't hate it. But they know there are racers that hate it, and thus they're going to be weak. Chances are, if you hate something and feel uncomfortable and you're out of your comfort zone and you don't know what's going on, you're not going to be as good as you are normally. And there are sharks who are realizing this, like, wow, this is a great opportunity to go get a win here because half of the competition is uncomfortable.
I think at this point, I would have agreed with you 2 years ago. I think at this point, we've run enough of them that everybody's pretty much familiar with the routine. And especially after a couple of runs on Friday, everybody will be right back into it. Staging being a little bit different, the tree being a little bit different. And again, that's stuff that I talk about in that video. It takes about 10 minutes if you look it up and watch it. But I think if you're going to Four Wide for the first time, or you just aren't really familiar with exactly the format and you're looking for a little more comfort level, I would highly recommend it. And again, not just because I did it, but because I think there's good information there for the casual fans. So, I think most people now are fairly comfortable with it. There are some that will tell you that it's not their favorite thing, but they've done it enough times now. I don't think anybody's way out of their comfort zone.
Well, that is good. Let's talk a little bit about a couple of drivers in particular. Clay Millican going to be on this show. I was very impressed by their performance at the Gator Nationals. Mike Klober and Clay coming together, losing on a hole shot by 3 thou, but a very important weekend for them to show that the team isn't done, right? Losing David Grubnick didn't kill that team. In fact, they've put it together and they ran well. They won races, and it was a real get-well weekend for them after a long offseason of toil and all kinds of stories. On the other side of the coin, Brittany Force. I was just looking at the point standings. Brittany, outside of the top 10, has really struggled. That is a team that really needs to get things going ASAP.
And I think they'll be fine. They just are going through a little bit of an adjustment period. And you mentioned Mike Klober coming in and taking over for David Grubnick and running that car for the Stringer Performance Team or the Straight Line Performance Team. David making the move over to Forces has changed a considerable amount of stuff. The parts and pieces that he is using now are coming out of John Force's shop instead of Don Schumacher's. The chassis coming out of John Force's shop instead of Don Schumacher's. And it's a little bit different, and it just, takes a few runs to get acclimated with. They have made some really good runs. They just haven't quite found the consistency that he had with Clay last year. I'm not worried in the least about Brittany. I think that she's going to be just fine. They just need to find the comfort zone that they had. You're right. This weekend to be a good one to do it, but I'm not worried about them at all. They're going to be fine.
Very good, very good. And funny car. They don't like, we spoke with Robert a week ago and dominating, and they shy away. Everybody shies away from that word. But I spent yesterday watching the coverage of the Gator Nationals, and just the look on Jimmy Prock's face, they've got a real confidence about them now. I don't know that maybe another team will jump up and rival against them at any moment, but this is a team that's hitting on all 8. They're coming out of the box extremely strong right at the start of the season, and I really expect something, I don't want to say historic from Robert and Jimmy and Chris Cunningham, but something really strong over the next several races.
Well, the question obviously is going to be how long can they keep it up before somebody else catches up? And we've seen that how many times over the course of the years. Dickie Venables, and just going back in the last few years, I think we would all pretty much agree that the 2 home run hitters out there have been Matt Hagan and Robert Height's team. Dickie Venables, Mike Knutson on Hagan's car, and Chris and Jimmy. One of them will get their teeth into something. And then, man, look out. They'll dominate for 2 months or 3 months or maybe even 6 months. And then the other team catches up. And they figure out, okay, this is where these guys are making strides on it. This is an area that we need to work at. And they figure it out. And we've seen it before. Right now, I think you said it perfectly. They're hitting on all 8. Jimmy making a lane change in the last round of the Gator Nationals still, I think, so far is the gutsiest move by a crew chief I've seen this year. Because when your car made 3 runs down the right lane within 100th and a half, we're talking 380s, mid-380s in a funny car, and you come up with the final round and go, okay, let's go down a lane we've never been in all day and go 386 and win the race. That's some confidence in your setup right now. And they've got it. But they know as well as I do and everybody else that's been through this before, the other teams are coming. What you're doing is you're making them mad. You're making them go home and work hard. You're making them not take off at 4 o'clock in the afternoon when they can stay for a couple more hours and work on whether it's parts and pieces, whether it's philosophy, whether it's studying computer graphs. But you're making them work harder because you're annoying them, and they're going to be coming back after you. So it'll be fun to watch. It always is fun to watch. And Robert historically has done okay at the 4 wide. So he definitely doesn't seem to be thrown off by that. Lane choice at the 4 wide, I think, is probably even more critical because all of a sudden now, prepping for 2 of them is one thing. If okay, I like the left lane, but if I have to go to the right lane, I can go to the right lane. I can make adjustments. But you could hypothetically end up in a lane that, you made 1 run on Thursday and haven't seen since because you don't have the choice. Right. And that's a whole lot more to worry about, adjust for, and try to stay on top of. So, having a quick car is going to be crucial on Sunday.
Yes, very excellent point. So true. The way it all works, before qualifying sessions, you get a shot in each lane. Also, in those center lanes, you have to look across the tree, which is, if anybody gets confused about anything, like that's what it would be. And being far right or far left, you can just look at the far right or far left of the tree and not have to worry about that. Very interesting stuff. Tim Wilkerson, those guys looking pretty good. They started off the season. Well, going back to last year in the countdown, they made a charge up to the front and looked like they had figured out whatever bothered them mid-season. And here we are at the start of the season, certainly at the Gator Nationals. They're showing some glimmers of their performance.
Yeah, and Tim Wilkerson, I think, is a really solid bet to be in the final quad on Sunday for the simple reason that he's got a really good car that goes down a racetrack way more often than not. And even though if he pulls up to the starting line against Robert Hight and Jimmy Prock, okay, he might be in a little bit of the deep end of the pool there, but he doesn't have to beat them on a 4 wide in the early rounds. He just has to make a clean run down the racetrack. And we've also seen, depending on who's in the quad, that, if there's 2 of the killers, okay, let's say Robert and Matt are both in the same quad, and the other 2 guys, let's just say they're not quite that killer status yet. Let's say, Joe's in lane 3 and Alan's in lane 4. By the way, you're in lane 3 because I had lane choice.
Okay.
Now, I know I can't outrun Robert. You probably can't outrun Robert. But we both know that Robert and Matt could go over center trying to outrun each other. And that will open the door for both of us. And how many times have we seen that? Where somebody that qualifies further down the ladder, somebody that doesn't look like they've got a real good handle on the racetrack, but they're able to advance because the other cars in the quad, basically, I'm so worried about him, I'm not even thinking about those other 2. And all you got to do is slide down the racetrack. And that's where Alan and Joe make their way to the final round, where we then get crushed like a bug.
Yeah, exactly. So just like normal. No, it does change. It does change the strategy, and that is why I think it should be appreciated and is interesting, because it does take you out of the normal way of thinking. There are additional elements which are pretty cool. Let's talk Pro Stock now. Whereas at the start of the season, there's a couple of storylines that I'm following, like Shane Tucker and Jeff Isbell with the Nick Ferry power, and they're coming along. They actually had a decent race out there at the Gator Nationals, finally got their own stuff the way they wanted in there. That's kind of a cool program to be watching here in this new Pro Stock universe. Kenny Delco, not going to run this race, but actually went rounds at Gainesville because Chris McGahey, they're making some power over there. And it seems like Alex Laughlin and Lump, while they did not make the final round, they had high level of confidence in Gainesville and just had a problem with the engine. it seems like Pro Stock, again, wide open. Roger Brogdon shaking off a little bit of rust, got a fast car. We know he's going to get to the winner's circle eventually. He has in the past. Hard to handicap Pro Stock right now.
Yeah, you're exactly right. We've had a couple of races so far, and 1 week it looks like the KB cars might run away and hide. 1 week it looks like the elite cars are the class of the field. And last week we ended up with one of each in the final, and then a broken lifter pushed Alex off to the side, and Bo Butner ends up going home with the trophy. I think the one thing that surprised me more than anything is how long it's been since Greg Anderson has had what he would call a really good day. I mean, he has been in a bit of a slump for probably the longest period of time ever since he's been with KB Racing. And that team is, power's not the problem. Don't take my word for it. Look at Bo's car. They just haven't seemed to find the sweet spot to get Greg's car consistent on Sunday. And I guarantee you that they're pulling their hair out over there worrying about that. So I look for him to come back pretty strong. It's been a while since Erica's been in the winner's circle. There's a pretty good level of competition over in Pro Stock right now. And as far as picking a favorite, Roger Brogdon's probably had the best car all year, but they've had two Sunday starting line mishaps where the car left before the tree. Something either in the electronics or in the bell housing was out of whack. They get that fixed, and they're going to be a pretty instant contender.
Yes, exactly. And Roger is an excellent racer, so it's a matter of time. Pro Stock Motorcycles coming out for the 4-wide. And from what I understand, this is the first spring race for the pro bikes, and I'm excited. That's wrought with storylines as well. You got Matt Smith, who's got an unbelievable bike, and then all of a sudden Andrew Hines goes back, takes the world record, him and Eddie in the final round, and they're just getting ramped up. Like, it starts now. It's good that the bikes, speaking of not having to take a couple of weeks off, they get to come out immediately and go 4-wide.
The thing to watch there is going to be how big a deal the new rules package is going to be. There was weight added to all of the V-twins after Gainesville, since they really looked like they were head and shoulders above the Suzukis, and that affects everybody that's got a V-twin. It affects the Buells as well as the Harleys, and that should close the gap a little bit between the Suzuki teams. Who adapts quicker to that is what we're going to find out this weekend. And I guarantee you there's been some guys out there doing some testing, trying to figure out, okay, we know we have to make the bike heavier. Where's the most efficient place to make the bike heavier so that we can try to overcome this weight penalty? So that's going to be a big storyline.
Angie Smith was not happy about the rules change.
Yeah, there were a lot of people that weren't overly thrilled with it, and I get it, but the performance of the V-twins has definitely separated themselves from the Suzukis here a little bit as of late, and the NHRA felt that adjustment needed to be made.
Yeah, well, exactly, and that's the way it is. Angie, of course, if you follow her on Facebook, that's where I got my information. I think Angie's out there right now, by the way. It's going to be interesting. We'll see. The good news is that, at least in my experience with the NHRA, if they're going to continue to work to keep things as equal as possible. So whatever happens, and we're seeing it in Factory Stock Showdown also, Alan, where they made an adjustment to the pulley size and the overdrive of the superchargers, and everyone's like, okay, well, what's going to happen? And the answer is, we don't know. We're going to have to race and find out. And if they went too far in one direction or the other, they're going to correct it. That's kind of the new religion of NHRA. Work and do whatever you got to do to keep things equal.
Well, you just don't want one particular combination to get a huge advantage. If in Pro Mod, I think it's a perfect example. And every time it's your combination that is perceived to be penalized, you feel like, geez, hey, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm working hard. I'm trying to make power. I'm trying to win races, and now I'm being penalized for it. And there's certainly some merit to that argument. But the other side of it is, and again, just using the Pro Mods for an example, if the turbo cars were the dominant car, then how long would it be before Pro Mod was 25 turbo cars? And nobody wants that. So you need to try to keep making adjustments so that keeps, because as exciting as Pro Mod is right now, if it was all turbo cars, it would not be as exciting.
Right.
If it was all blower cars, it wouldn't be as exciting. If it was all nitrous cars, I'm not picking on one combination. I'm just saying, part of what makes that class what it is, and part of what makes the fans excited about that class, is that if you're a nitrous guy, you've got somebody to root for, and you've got a chance. If you're a blower guy, you've got somebody to root for, and you've got a chance. And so you have to try to keep, that parity. it's not an easy job to have, and I'm glad the responsibility doesn't fall on my shoulders. I understand the feeling of racers when they feel like, hey, I worked hard, I found something, and I'm being penalized. But I also think that you have to understand, for the good of the class, you need to keep all of the different combinations competitive.
So true, so true. Alan, any final thoughts? They got the big autograph session going to be happening at New York once again. Headed to Vegas, 4 wide, and the season really gets rolling.
Yep, I agree with that. And the one thing, I want to just touch base on one thing that's not really drag race related.
Sure.
But I want to give a tip of the cap to Tanner Gray. I don't know how many people saw Tanner was running a K&N West Series race this past weekend, finished second in a literal side-by-side run coming off of turn 4, dove down, looked like he got the fender out in front for a split second, and then ended up short at the line by a foot or two. But Tanner, who retired or at least taking a break from NHRA Pro Stock after last year to go try his hand at circle track racing. And his brother also had won a race within the last couple of weeks. So the Gray family showing that they've got talent to drive basically any kind of race car, and I think we should tip a cap to them.
No, that is great news. I was a little surprised, actually, that Tanner went west because I thought he was doing only K&N East. And so when I saw the photographs, I guess Phil Burgess did a couple of tweets, et cetera, that made me feel great because I want him to be successful. I want him to go all the way. I want to have somebody that I know in the Cup Series so I can go bother him for tickets.
There you go. One other thing, since you mentioned Phil Burgess.
Yes.
I assume that you have seen the latest edition of National Dragster, the 60th anniversary edition.
Yes.
I sent Phil a text when that showed up in my mailbox. I'm still give me the magazine. I want to turn the pages. I want to have it in my hands kind of guy. And I sent Phil a text afterwards that said, I'm not saying it's the best issue ever, but I think it's top 5. I think the job that they did on that, the retrospective looking back over the years of National Dragster, where they've come from, where they've been. If you don't subscribe, if you're not a member of NHRA and you don't get National Dragster on a regular basis, find a place to pick that one up, whether it's your local speed shop, whether it's wherever. I promise you won't be sorry. It's a tremendous issue. Absolutely.
No, a fact. In that the NHRA National Dragster just adjusting to the times, but it's something that is a must for any drag racing fan. And now NHRA membership is something that's very cool because they got the tiers and the T-shirt is back. Discount on NHRA.tv, all kinds of great reasons. Cool. And I am working my way through it. Alan, great job as usual. And speaking of Phil Burgess, he just tweeted 14 minutes ago. I might as well tell everybody that Justin Ashley will now make his Top Fuel debut later this season. The timetable has been adjusted since you got me going to Phil Burgess's Twitter account. And look at that. They will now run Justin a little bit later this season.
Not surprised with that at all. I kind of figured that at some point later on this year, he'd put his toes in the sand a little bit. I don't think he's going to run very many races because they're going to keep their rookie status for next year intact. But why wouldn't you come out? There's plenty of cars out there right now that are not running a full schedule where you could get your butt in the seat of one of those things for 2 or 3 races and just get a little bit of experience. There's no reason to not do that.
Kind of a cool time in the sport, though, when you think about like Jordan Vandegrift and Austin Prock and Justin Ashley and these fresh young faces who are good drivers, who are interesting people, who are getting in and getting involved, and whether it be through help from their parents who have already been down the road with drag racing or otherwise, that's what has to happen in this sport, and to watch it happening is very cool.
I agree. It's fun watching the next generation coming along, and these guys are good. They're young, they're good looking, they're well spoken. I think they're going to be very attractive to sponsors. I know they're very attractive to fans. So bring them on. Let's keep them coming.
Let's do it. Exactly. Alan, great job as usual. I'll see you in Vegas.
Thanks, Joe. Travel safe. I'll see you in a couple days.
Thanks, Alan. The voice of the NHRA, Alan Reinhart, joins us for a conversation at the start of each WFO Radio NHRA Nitro, except for last week. Because we broke last week's show was really 2 shows. We did the Alan Reinhart segment the week previous, and then last week was winners only. We had Robert Height. We had everyone that is waiting for you in the archive. If you didn't hear it, that's why you got to subscribe. right? You got to subscribe. Plus, you get the Ignition Show. It's so much fun. Right now, though, as we get ready for Clay and Tommy and Jacob, I want to tell you about the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. Start your education at full speed with samtech.edu. Accelerate your career as a high-performance engine builder with classroom instruction and practical hands-on experience. In the lab, on the dyno, and at the track, in addition to blockhead and CNC programs, SAM now offers motorsport EFI tuning and an Associate of Applied Science degree. SAM is a military-friendly school that's approved to train veterans and other eligible persons under the GI Bill. Go to samtech.edu today and start your education at full speed. Something that's not going to be outsourced, that you can take with you from city to city, from state to state, but most importantly, you will be in and around the sport of drag racing or motorsports in general and get a great start. Don't forget, Factory Stock Podcast, the Factory Stock Showdown, which is sponsored by samtech.edu, has rapidly become one of the quickest and most popular sports in NHRA drag racing. People are loving it. Great opportunity to hear Drew Skillman. Great opportunity to hear David Barton after his crash. Great opportunity to hear Mark Powick, all on episode 4. Go to Apple Podcasts, Factory Stock Podcast. Check it out. Brought to you by the folks at samtech.edu. When we come back, it's going to be Clay Millican. Stick around.
This is WFO Radio.
Hey everybody, Joe here, and I hereby decree on behalf of the WFO universe, the winter is over, which means it's time to grill. Get yourself some Rodak's Coffee and Grills.com, barbecue, spice rub, hot sauce, and of course, incredible coffee. They've got the WFO Radio Blend, they've got the Bang the Blower, they've got the exotics. It's all roasted fresh per your order, representing the top 5% of coffee throughout the world. Go to Rodak's Coffee and Grills.com or give Marvin a call. 817-924-6821 for Rodak.
Android and iPhone users,
Grills.com.
download the WFO Radio app. It's sports radio for racing fans.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
The ultimate racing show, including WFO Radio NHRA Nitro, WFO Radio Ignition, the WFO Radio NASCAR Tailgate Party, news, videos, push notifications, and more.
I just hope I'm part of it.
Go to the App Store or Android Market, search WFO Radio, and download it now.
Drag Racing Edge. That's the magazine. Subscribe online. Get the issues, $24.95. Keep up with your favorite sport, whether it be NHRA Mellow Yellow, Lucas Oil Series action. They cover drag radio. They cover it all. Drag Racing Edge magazine. Hussey Performance Copperhead Gaskets. Do you make big power? That's the question. Hussey Performance specializes in quality copper gaskets to your exact specs. Any bore, any size and thickness. From 500 cubic inch nitro burning Hemis to turbocharged Pro Mods to Honda engines or even big tractors, Hussey Performance makes the gaskets. If you're a racer, you're thinking about, well, how long does this take? Typically less than a week. They want to help you make the race. Next day shipping is also available. What to do? You got to call David directly, 724-318-8292, or go to husseyperformance.net. And one more thing, it's all made in America, including the machines they use. That is huge. 724-318-8292, Hussey Performance, Copperhead Gaskets for you engine builders out there. These guys are supporting WFO. Check them out. It is husseyperformance.net.
Subscribe to WFO Radio on iTunes. Never miss a show. And don't forget to write a review. WFO.
Now, back to WFO Radio, NHRA Nitro.
Hey, welcome back to NHRA Nitro Podcast. And we've been doing this for 10 years, and I've been saying that all year long because this is our 10th year anniversary, building up to 10-year anniversary in November. And it's just been so interesting to watch the whole sport change. You know, we've got a Facebook page. Hopefully you follow it, and Twitter account, WFO Radio. Hopefully you follow along and check out all kinds of good stuff. But we've been going a long time. It has been very fun to watch and experience so many things from behind the microphone here at WFO Radio Podcast, including the transition to mobile devices for so many people. It wasn't that long ago where people were saying, like, oh, I don't know how to do that. I'll never be able to use a mobile device. Give me a flip phone. And now folks are downloading drag racing podcasts. And, of course, there's been an explosion of drag racing podcasts out there on Apple Podcasts. And so hopefully more people promoting the fact that there's podcasts will bring more listeners to the podcast universe. That's the way I am looking at it, and I think it is great, and I am excited that we are able to catch up with great guests like Clay Millican, who will be on with us momentarily. But right now, I want to tell you about motorsportsguys.com. Terry McMillan out there at his sponsor's race. The race didn't go exactly as they would have wanted, but still got a quick hot rod. And the guy always uses the phrase, persistence beats resistance, and started AmelieStore.com a few years ago and has recently expanded it to motorsportsguys.com. So think about this. The next time you need Amelie for your oil change, for whatever, or maybe you're a Nitro team out there and you're thinking, which oil should I use? Should I use that Amelie Pro Racing with Molly 70-weight oil that Terry uses? Go to motorsportsguys.com and you can get drums, you can get quarts. It just depends on what you're looking for and for your car or truck. So you're a fan of Terry, you want to support Terry, motorsportsguys.com. A great place to get all your parts and pieces. Plus they have filters, they have high-performance products, they have everything you could possibly want at motorsportsguys.com. Terry has been getting involved in the mail-order business and has certainly had great success on the racetrack. He is the defending U.S. Nationals winner, and I just think that by going to motorsportsguys.com, you can support Terry and support his business. But they've got all kinds of parts and pieces, including K&N filters, All-State Performance Racing, and high-performance parts from Motor State Distributing and Lane Automotive. They've got 70-weight, 2050, 1030, 520. That's the Pro Racing Oil. That stands for Professional Racing Oil. They've been doing it since 1903, Amelie, better than it has to be, and it is available at motorsportsguys.com. Check them out, and good luck to Terry over the course of the 2019 season. All right, let's keep on going. Joining us now, he went all the way to the final round at the Amelie Motor Oil NHRA Gator Nationals. He'll be in action a little 4-wide this weekend out there in Vegas, baby. Mr. Clay Millican joins us now. Clay, welcome back to WFO. How are you?
Man, I'm great. I am always glad to join the WFO Nation, that's for sure.
We're a universe, actually, Clay. We're bigger than a nation.
Well, that's true.
We're a universe.
Yeah, that's true. That is true because you can get this all over the world.
Yeah, and maybe even beyond.
Actually, I guess, I was going to say, actually, thanks to satellites, you can get it anywhere.
You would think. Let's just hope the wrong people, species, or whatever doesn't hear it and hate it, because they might come to. I would hate to be the reason. So, Clay, let's talk a little bit about. I've been dying to speak with you on the show, but I wanted to let you guys kind of sort out your situation. Have good news to talk about. Watching what happened at the Gator Nationals, to me, totally validated so many things. You guys went through some extreme challenges. You lost your whole team off your best career season, and you lost your whole team. That's the kind of thing that could have gutted you and Doug, and instead you put together a new team. You brought Mike back, and a lot of people, myself included, thought, wow, Mike Klober's just going to come back and kind of, jump in to Mellow Yellow Series Top Fuel after, being a little bit out of the loop and be successful? Is that what's going to happen? I don't know. And after what I saw in Gainesville, it looks like you guys are on to something. Give me your assessment of what I just mentioned, the good, the bad, the ugly, and now where you are.
Well, I tell you, we did go through a lot of changes. We added to the ownership group of the team, in December. Scott Gardner, a lot of people that are avid followers of racing will certainly know Scott. He ran the racetrack in Cordova, Illinois for 20 years, Eddyville, Iowa, a few other little racetracks, home of the World Series of Drag Racing, IHRA president at one time, and J.J. Keeler. So, we strengthened up our ownership group. We brought in Steve Cole, to help us with our marketing and sponsorship.
Let's pause right there, because while you and I are up to speed, the average listener may not know, when you say you shored up your ownership group, you brought in heavy hitters. These are guys who have been kind of looking for the right thing to get involved with, And I heard third party, Steve Cole, for those that don't know, worked at John Force Racing, was in many ways the marketing genius behind many of the big deals over the years. I think, from what I've heard, like legend says that he was the guy who had the concept for the Superman car. I don't know if, I haven't heard Steve tell me that, but that's what I've heard about Steve. And the quote that I heard, and you can maybe confirm as best as possible, was that he said, I've been selling this sport for so many years, it's time that I put my money where my mouth has been. And he got involved with ownership of the team. So these are big players in and around the sport taking the next step. Steve Cole.
It's really cool. They come up with this idea, that Steve Cole's obviously been out there, been very successful at what he does. I mean, the guy's even worked with, Dale Earnhardt, senior, that is. He's done so many things in the sport, and like I say, Scott and JJ as well. They've done so many different things, and then during PRI show, we kind of announced this marketing umbrella that covers, not only our Parts Plus Top Fuel car, but it also kind of covers Paul Lee, who's coming back, which is a great story in itself. A guy that had a Widowmaker heart attack, had a funny car operation out there with Coletta, ran a couple races, then boom, had this massive heart attack, shouldn't have survived. And he's coming back. We've got Matt Hartford in Pro Stock. We got Jeanette Thornley in the Top Fuel Harley. And, of course, Jeff Lutz from Street Outlaws, So Steve Cole and Scott, they had this idea of, hey, we're a very small team. No two ways about that. Very, very limited budget. But Scott can go out and Steve can go out and sell to whoever is interested, and it's like, hey, we can offer you not only the Parts Plus Top Fuel car, but we've got the funny car, we've got a Pro Stock car, we got a Nitro Harley, and we've got Jeff Lutz in Street Outlaws. So that was a great idea. The guys, they definitely think. I took me a little while to grasp what they were saying. It's like, we can't afford to get involved with all those cars, but it's a great idea. It allows SSG, which is the name of our company, Straight Line Strategy Group, to be able to offer up all these things to, possible partners, current partners, to gain more exposure and more business opportunities because there's, more teams involved. So, Steve Cole, Scott, JJ, they are huge parts of the sport that may not be household names, but the people that know them know that they're very strong in what they do.
And to bring back Mike Klober, all right, last year one of the great interviews that we did was you, Doug, and David Grubnick in the rain delay at Kansas. And, everyone speculated at some point nothing is permanent, right, Clay? Nothing is permanent. Things change. That something would change with the team. But it had to be a little bit disconcerting for you. Like, my goodness, I'm finally, getting somewhere. Like, this is going good. And then David goes. And now you're like, well, what are we going to do now? And to have such a comfort zone with someone like Mike and have it work as early as the Gator Nationals in a race where you went down the track consistently and quickly and solidly. And I'm doing starting line interviews with Mike feeling like there's got to be a real sense of, comfort for you two as you go rounds and go to the final round.
Oh, absolutely. It's funny how things go, but it's not just in racing. When you have major changes in something that you dearly love, you just instinctively kind of go to something that you're familiar with, something you're comfortable with, and for me, when David left and it's like, okay, what are we going to do now? Well, obviously Mike and I have quite a history. We've done a lot of things together, and we've always remained friends, even when we kind of parted ways, like say things change in the racing world, but we never not messed up our friendship. A lot of times racing, as competitive as it is, can do that, but he and I maintained our friendship for all these years, and it was an easy decision for me, and I know a lot of people, they're like, wow, Mike's kind of been out of it for a little while, and, how's this going to work? And for me, I was confident, as Mike said, we talked about the things that have changed. There's more tools available to a crew chief now than when he was out here last time. there's something that's constant with nitro racing and actually racing in general. It's engine RPM, drive shaft, and G meter. How high can you make all those goes without smoking the tires? That's kind of how it goes. That's just the way it works. But my confidence level was high, and I got to be truthful. I knew we would be okay. Did I think we'd go to a final round at the 50th annual Gator Nationals? Nah, maybe not. But I knew that Mike can still do this. And I knew, we were definitely going to get there. But what this group did, and it is a completely all brand new group. What they did as quickly as they did was awesome. It was definitely a shot in the arm, and then hopefully, it made other people believe that, Doug, Scott, and JJ, and they made the right decision, bringing Mike back out here. And we certainly, have to thank Jimmo. Jimmo's getting ready to run the Paul Lee Funny Car, but we've been able to kind of, use him as well to help get everything in place and catch Mike up with some of those tools that are available now that were not available, when he was out here full time before.
Yeah, and that is it's very interesting to hear that. And, smart people are smart people, right? And they go off and do other things, and then they come back in. And sometimes, maybe a fresh set of eyes and concepts may be even a great thing, but also the fact that Jimmo is there overseeing. Boy, what a guy to have, as guardrails, right? To, keep things on the right track.
Oh, for sure. Without a doubt, Mike's tuning this thing, but he's got Jimmo there to bounce ideas off of and say, okay, how does this work? I didn't have this when I was out here before. How does this work? And the two of them working together has just been really awesome. And, and we'll continue to work together. Even, when the Paul Lee Funny Car gets out there, it's going to be pretty good, because at that point, it's a funny car, but we will have a little bit of an idea of what the racetrack's doing. They'll know what they're trying to run, and we'll know what we're trying to run, and it'll be helpful. Even though they won't be in the same trailer together, it'll still be very helpful that we'll have at least a little bit of track info. That's a lot of times the hardest part of being a single car team is the track info. It's tuning information. That don't always translate. You hear the big teams talk about it all the time. These two cars are built identical, but they won't run identical. Drivers drive differently, drivers weigh different amounts, whatever the case may be. But to me, the valuable information is, that car was supposed to go 375, and instead it smoked the tires. If you knew that, then the next car is like, okay, I need to make an adjustment. So I think that's going to be a big value when Paul gets that funny car out there.
Right, pull it back a little bit. And that's for those that are, I think our audience is pretty up to speed on things. But when you see the last-minute adjustment, crew chief going in and twisting those knobs, right? Less aggressive, more aggressive, simple as that. And it's at that point, it's what? It's feel, right? It's let me pull it back a little bit, or let me increase it here and there. And that's the kind of adjustability they have. And if your teammate, or when you see a Dickie Venables go walking back to a Ron Tobler and telling him something, or in the John Force Racing Camp, that is the benefit that they have by having multiple cars. They know what their prediction was. They know what it did. They can go back and say, yeah, my thing didn't work, and change it. You guys have a different challenge.
Yeah, a single car team, you just don't have that luxury. And, I am just so, so happy for, what we did in Gainesville. Yes, we got beat in the final, but it was a great drag race. We made a good run. We were actually the quicker car. I was 0.58 on the tree, and Richie's 0.42, and he got me by 0.03 of a second. It was just a heck of a drag race. Normally, as a driver, you just absolutely beat yourself up. But if you're 58 on the tree and run 75 and you get beat, you just go over there and shake their hand and say, hey, you did your job, and we get ready for the next one. And we are getting ready for the next one. It's huge. Vegas, 4-wide, Denso Nationals. We are the Denso car. Parks Plus and Denso does a lot of business together, so we will have the Denso proudly displayed on the car for the Vegas race, and I am looking forward to it. I've always loved the 4-wides.
Yes. Well, I want to point out one more thing, that you had your best reaction time of the whole race in the final round, which is another, like, Clay, in the end, like, losing is a real bummer, man. Of course, as you know, coming in second, but where you were at the end of November to where you were in the end of March, right? Best reaction time of the weekend, running quicker elapsed time, coming up 3,000 short, putting it together, putting it away, all together. Like, you guys are in a great spot, and I just want to put an exclamation point on that thought before we move forward. So, yes, I think it was last year we were out at the customer race at the 4-wide, kind of hanging out as we were getting ready for the first ever West Coast 4-wide drag race. And here we are again. Now this is a thing, 4-wide, twice a year. And I don't know, I'm really hoping that I hate the 4-wide folks are just dealing with it. There's a lot of stuff that, maybe we don't love. This happens twice a year. We had a sellout, a race that was really poorly attended previously. The spring race at Vegas became a sellout, and that's what you got to do. You got to make your weaknesses your strengths, and we had a really good year last year. Now, I don't know if it's going to be a sellout again this year, but I do know it's going to be run 4-wide, and so are you ready?
Oh, I do. Like I say, I love the 4-wides, and just to finish that thought, I kind of have a love-hate for the 4-wide. And let me explain that. So I love the confusion up on the starting line, what staging bulb to look at. You've got, all these staging bulbs. You've got all these cars that are trying to get staged at the proper amount of time without getting timed out. So I love that part of it. It reminds me of back in the day bracket racing when the delay boxes we have were not so complicated, and you actually looked at your opponent's Christmas tree to let go of the trans brake button, so that kind of brings me back to my bracket racing roots. But the hate part of it is on Sunday, again, being the small team without unlimited amount of equipment, mainly motors and that sort of thing in the trailer, is in a typical normal drag race, we know if we're getting beat, let's say we smoke the tires early and the other car's just whistling right down through there. Well, if you shut it off, that's what you got to do. You save the motor, save the parts. 4-wide, it's a whole different ball game because you can't see all the cars, and you're not trying to just beat one. You're trying to beat a few of them. So Sunday makes it a little hard. Not only on the driver that cares about the parts in the trailer, but it can make it hard on the ownership trying to pay for those parts if you have to get after it to try to win the round. So that's kind of the love-hate part of it. But I do love the idea of packed grandstands, and you're dead on. That race was not the best attended last year. It was sold out. It was just, that's what we want. We want full grandstands. Drag racing is in wonderful shape right now. I mean, it is pretty crazy how this sport is exploding. Everything's charting up, and I love that because I love this sport.
All right, let's delve into that. And this is a typical Clay Millican on WFO Radio podcast, left-hand turn, and this is what we do. We'll talk a little bit about the team, but then, you've got views and I've got views, and we end up talking about stuff, and it is cool. I feel that. I want it to be true. The ocean that is things to do in the world and in America is so vastly deep. If you flip through the channels, you'll see kids drone racing. You got just so many things out there now. And I do feel like drag racing is trending up. We started a factory stock podcast because factory stock is so cool. Every car I see now, I remember in I'll just make it a year up, 2005, right? Looking through the parking lots and thinking oh my God, these cars, they stink. There's what is there? Honda Civic, who cares? Whatever. And now everywhere I look, Mustangs, Camaros, Challengers, Chargers, cool cars, even if they're 6-cylinder cars. These cars are cool. They're going to be out. Kids are going to play with them. They're going to have fun with them. The street drags thing I do, kids are racing these cars. Kids are doing, putting decals on them. I can't afford to do a new Holley fuel injection system, but I can get a sticker and put it on my car, and they're reconnecting. That's what I see and feel. But then occasionally, I don't know, maybe I think it's just me, and that's what I'm focused on.
Well, no, I think you're right. I mean, all things that you just said there are dead on. But think about it. Right now, the factory is building the quickest cars they've ever built. And I'm talking drag racing. You know, you think about, you know, Dodge and what they've done. You know, they've got the Hellcat out there. You can go buy it and go nines. I mean, it's just crazy. This is bigger than the muscle car area. You know, a lot of people think, oh, you're crazy, Clay. You know, we had all these cool Camaros back in the day. Well, guess what? We got a Copo Camaro. You know, they talk about, you know, the cool fastback Mustang. Look at the Mustangs. Look how fast they go. I mean, look at the factory stock class, just like you said. This is by far the greatest era of muscle cars ever built. You know, I mean, they're quick, they're fast, and, you know, that's pretty awesome. I mean, when you have the factories building right off the showroom floor 9-second cars, we were nowhere close to that, you know, in what, you know, Joe, I'm not calling me and you old, but, you know, our fantasy muscle cars were nowhere near as quick. And you certainly wouldn't want to drive one across the country with air conditioning, power steering, and cruise control. Well, you can do that these days. I mean, to me, you know, we're in probably the best muscle car era ever.
Yeah. No, that is true. How old are you, Clay? How old are you?
I'm 53.
Oh, you're definitely old, but I am not, because I am only 46. I'm still below the threshold you know, I don't make these things up. It's society, Clay. Society says that when you're 50 or old, when you're under 50, you're still young. But yes, it is so true, and hopefully that these, you know, not everybody was always into drag racing in the past anyway. That was never true. The movies, right? Like you think about Grease. Well, the other guys were, you know, jocks, you know, into that. We have a nice group of people that are heavily involved with auto sports, motorsports, and in particular drag racing. And I don't know, the people who rolled out of Gainesville Raceway seemed like they had a great time. So we are all in on this. Just a nice little side conversation. All right, I'm looking at your feed now. What is this dirt bike that you forced Tom Patsis to build for you? And those are what? Those are dragster front wheels?
I'll tell you what, cold hard art. That guy is so talented. I mean, you know, he's kind of a been there, done that kind of guy. Ultra talented artist. You know, he's built dragsters at Don Schumacher. He's worked with Angel Sampey and Antron Brown on Pro Stock motorcycles. And yes, he had built him and his wife bicycles with Top Fuel dragster front wheels and tires. And I'm like, man, I want one of those things. And he's like, I don't like doing the bicycle thing. You know, I just did that for me and my wife. And I pestered him enough that he built me one. And it is really cool. I mean, you know, I posted that thing the other day and people are like, new pit bike. You know, I've actually had it for a couple of years and I took it to the racetrack once or twice and I was terrified to leave it setting out. And so every time that we went to go run, I was picking the bicycle up, taking it, putting it inside the trailer. And I'm like, man, I don't want anybody to take this thing. You know, it is so cool, but I ride it around in the driveway, up and down the driveway. He's a cool dude and he builds some really cool stuff.
Oh, he did. He built our WFO Radio Fantasy League trophy that we put the winner's name on each year that sits in our studio. It's a piece of unique Tom Patsis cold hard art. So the guy is a wizard. He's amazing. He's super talented. It's almost sad. You know, you see a guy like that and you think, like, you know, what am I doing? I'm talking. Ridiculous. Pathetic.
Yeah, but he talks more than you and I put together.
Not possible. Come on. What he does with the spoons and the rose bouquets and everything, like the guy is a genius.
He really is. And he's such a good dude and he's a hard worker. The car I'm driving right now is a Schumacher chassis, and we got that a little over a year ago. Schumacher chassis shop was so backed up, they had Tom over there, and Tom actually put the pedals and where my seat belts go. He did all that stuff, so that was kind of cool to get to work with him, you know, actually kind of one-on-one, you know, not just building a cool, you know, weld racing Top Fuel bicycle kind of thing, you know, but he actually was over there working, you know, and so that was kind of fun to watch him work, you know, in the environment where he started at, which was building race cars.
Excellent. All right. So 8th in the points right now, but within 100 points of the lead. Everybody is really stacked on top of each other. And you look at people who are outside of the top 10, Brittany Force, you know, Scott Palmer, you know, Jordan Vandergriff above both of those two with his limited schedule. You got Austin Prock out there. So it's going to be tough. You are 8th in the standings. What is, you know, do you have a strategy that you guys are working Or is it just go out to each race and try to get qualified and do as well as you have? Or is there some sort of plan to position yourselves for if you make the countdown to do well in the countdown? It seems in the years past that making the countdown is what everybody wants to do. But if you haven't planned for it, you're not going to win it. So you almost have to decide to put together a whole program that culminates with your best 6 runs, which means planning ahead for it.
Oh, for sure. I mean, to stay in the top 10, you've got to go rounds. Plain and simple, we didn't go rounds in the first 2 races, and then we go to the final and, moved ourselves up in the points. But, our strategy is to be in the top 5 when we leave Indy, and at the same time, try to have built up a little bit of inventory where, we don't have to worry about it quite as much during those last 6. I mean, those last 6 is what, determines if you're the champion or not. That's just plain and simple. You've got to just be in that position. And being in the top 5 certainly makes it better, but Robert Hite proved to everyone a few years ago it doesn't matter where you're at. And if you look at Steve Torrance last year, you could be in 10th place, and if you go out there and go to every final round and win them all, it doesn't matter where you're at, you're going to be the champ, But we do, our plan is to try to just go some rounds at every event, and maintain a spot in the top 10. And also try to build up a little inventory for those last 6 races where it really, really determines, where you finish up. I finished 3rd in the points last year, 1 round out of 2nd, and nowhere near the championship. Steve Torrance, ran away with that, and I still think he did not get the credit. His team did not get the credit. That should have been like on CNN News what they did last year. It was absolutely unbelievable, incredible. I don't think it'll ever be seen again. Somebody to win that many races in a row.
Well, I agree. No, I agree. And we, on our show, we tried our best to, shake the tree, alert the media. People should have been freaking out about it. It's unfortunate that the drag racing media and all of us are so exhausted at the end of the Auto Club finals that, in many ways, my assessment, having been out here a couple of years, Clay, is that everybody is just staggering down the stretch, and once it's over, but it's not over. But it's not over. Like, you got to take a little time to look back and understand what just happened. Like, what just happened? And when they won the final 6 races, I agree. That was something for the ages, something that we will probably never see again, ever in our lives. And maybe it'll happen this year, but I really doubt it.
I really doubt it, too. I mean, the class is so competitive, and these things are so finicky. Anything could happen at any time. And then, what they did was just absolutely unbelievable. They certainly kicked our butt along with everybody else. And my hat's off to them. It was totally impressive what they did.
Well, we had a chance to get after it again this year. Clay, thank you for coming on WFO Radio Podcast. Appreciate it. I know you've been, it's tough off season, a lot of hard work, but that the feeling you got, nobody wants to be the runner-up, but it's all in context of where you've been recently, and that is a big performance to go out there, make the final round, get down the racetrack, and just come up 3,000 short to Richie Crampton. So good luck this weekend out there at the Denso Spark Plugs 4 Wide Nationals. Of course, the Denso Top Fuel Dragster, and have a good time.
I absolutely looking forward to it. Like I say, Denso sponsored race, and I'm really excited. We're going to have a little surprise as well for you guys. Doug Herbert, who founded Brakes, is the Grand Marshal. And stay tuned for a little news coming out of our car, kind of tied to that. I'm excited about it.
You guys are finally going to fight each other after that big thing that happened. No?
I would need a step stool.
No, I know. You just got to move. You got to keep moving. You got to move left. You got to move right. You got to get them tired. That's your only hope, Clay. I'm kidding. I know you guys have developed into great friends, obviously.
We really have. No, we really have. I'm looking forward to it. Like I say, we're doing some cool stuff with Doug and Brakes this weekend at Vegas, and I'm excited about it.
When are you announcing that?
Well, when is this going to air? How about that?
This is going to air. People will begin downloading it, like, let's call it 10 p.m. Eastern Time Tuesday night. Is that in your window? Can you tell us?
Yeah.
Tell us.
Actually, we are. You're going to get breaking news right here on WFO Radio. That's
there you go.
there's this press release being put together right now that we are going to have brakes on the side of our car, very large, this weekend to go along at the Denso Nationals. Denso is a very strong supporter of the brakes program. Those of y'all that don't know, brakes, be responsible and keep everyone safe. It is a proactive team driving school that Doug Herbert started when he lost his two sons, and obviously he and I have that in common, and I host a brake school right here in my home area, and we're going to have brakes very large on the car this weekend.
That is fantastic.
And I'm excited about that.
Well,
yeah.
After the whole Terry Vance $1 million thing.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
Yeah. No, really. That was, of all the moments that I have experienced out at the NHRA, and, you know, what Doug went through, I can't even talk about it, frankly. And you guys have you have that in common now. Like, I can't even think of it. I don't have children. You know, I can't even imagine. Can't even imagine. And for Terry Vance, I know the guy is well-heeled and all, and they've had great success. But there's a lot of people with a lot of money that they'll write a check for $10,000, and everyone will be like, "Wow, $10,000!" And you know, I told this story in the past, Clay. I'll tell you again. Like I guessed, I played the guessing game in my head. Like, what's this going to be? Is it going to? It's going to be, you know, it's going to be $50,000. Yeah, no, man. Terry Vance wants to make a big splash. It's going to be $100,000. Wow, $100,000. It was $1 million. I was blown away. $1 million.
Oh, you know, it's funny. You know, Doug comes over that morning at Pomona, and he's like, "Hey, you've got to be on the starting line in between Top Fuel and Funny Car." I'm like, "Doug, I'm the last pair." And he's like, "Don't care. You got to be there. Something really cool's happening." Well, what is it? I'm not going to tell you. He wouldn't tell me. So we make our run, and I literally, you know, the way we tow the cars back at Pomona, you go in front of the grandstands and you turn under them. The moment we got to the little turn, I hopped out, and the presentation was already going on, and I see Doug and Mr. Vance holding this big check, and I'm like, wow, I was kind of like you know, what is it? Is it $50,000 or what, you know? And finally wiggled my way around where I could see it. I'm like, that's a lot of zeros. I was just like, you know, mouth wide open. Holy moly. I can't believe that, you know, that's unbelievable. I mean, what do you say about someone that does that? You know, that's pretty freaking awesome. And it's going to something that, you know, saves children's lives and probably saves adults' lives too. You know, if there's not a crash, it's a good chance that, you know, nobody's going to get hurt. It's a heck of a program. Like I say, I've been helping Doug with it for many, many years. And, you know, in the past few years, I've hosted a school here, and, you know, so unbelievable program. I think it's something that every teenager should certainly go through before they get their license.
No, totally agree. And, you know, hopefully, as it evolves, you know, partner with an insurance company to give a discount to a young person who has gone through the course. Like, I don't know what all the details are, but I know that there is definitely growth potential out there that would encourage more people to do it. Because let's face it, you know, when you're 16, 17, 18 years old, you think you know everything, but you really know nothing. And how could you possibly know what you don't know? It's just an experience thing that gets you, and hopefully you get the opportunity to gain that experience, which not everybody does. And that's the point of the class. Clay, thank you for sharing that news with us, by the way. I didn't even have to pull it out of you. You just volunteered. That was wonderful.
Oh, I'm excited about it. And back to brakes for just one moment. I know we're making this run long. Here's just some facts. You know, not only do I think it's a great program, these are actual facts. 90% of all teenage drivers are going to have a crash. Doesn't mean it's going to be a horrible crash, but 90% of all teenage drivers will have a crash.
Wow.
And the UNCC Charlotte did a study at this has been a couple years back. I think at that point, 20,000 teens had been through the brakes program. Of those 20,000 teens that have been through that program, 64% less likely to have a crash. That's facts.
Wow. You can't argue with the numbers right there. That's analytics at work. I had a crash, 90%. It was dumb. I had a couple.
Me too.
They weren't my fault, but I was in them. And maybe if I had been thinking better, more clearly, evasive, who knows? I'm a big supporter, and I love it. And I can't wait to see the Brakes / Denso Dragster out there this weekend. Clay, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for giving us a deep dive into the team and all that. But you got a call, so you got to go.
Thanks, guys, for letting me be on the show.
Thanks, Clay. Clay Millican with us here on WFO Radio NHRA Nitro. Appreciate Clay coming on the show. And Clay, certainly the story and the buzz. And we'll be a Denso racer out there this weekend and got brakes on board. How about that big breaking news that Clay Millican going to have brakes on the side of his car? I think it is great. And again, I've said it over and over again. You know, you do a show every week. I like to reinforce points. The donation of $1 million. The fact that Terry Vance ponied up $1 million, just tremendous. And looking forward to the weekend. Let's just say that. All right, we got Tommy Johnson Jr. coming up next. But right now, I want to tell you about CatSpotLitter.com and Magic Dry. Magic Dry and CatSpot are made out of the same core organic property, which is coconut. That is the ingredient. And it absorbs 560% of its weight. And they've found that it's great, whether it be used for cat litter or whether it be used as a multi-purpose absorbent in industry. It's still great. And it's made of coconut, which means it's not bad for the environment. They have gotten on board with NHRA drag racing in a big way. Here's the deal. If you got a shop, if you've got a factory, if you work on an oil rig, if you're looking to control larger spills, industrial, automotive, that kind of stuff, then you probably want to get MagicDryUS.com. Hit the site. If you've got cats and you're a homeowner and you're just a drag racing fan who's got a couple of cats running around, then you definitely want to go to CatSpotLitter.com. Simple as that. CatSpot, Magic Dry, both supporting Scott Palmer, both supporting the sport of NHRA drag racing, and both supporting WFO Radio. So next time you need cat litter or the missus is going to go out and drag that big bag around to the grocery store, think that doesn't ever have to happen again, because going to CatSpotLitter.com, you can order and subscribe, and it just shows up based on the number of cats you have. It's actually a very cool deal. If you do not have cats and you do not like cats, but you still want to support the sport of drag racing and you have a shop, an automotive shop, or Magic Dry, it's a 100% organic multi-purpose absorbent and is the official organic absorbent of NHRA. What more could you want? MagicDryUS.com, CatSpotLitter.com, both supporting WFORadio.com. We'll be back after this with Tommy Johnson Jr.
It ain't just wide open, it's WFO.
Hangstafers, metalworking lubricants. The folks at Hangstafers on board with big racers like Antron Brown and Lucas Oil Series, sportsman racers in the Racing RV's Top Dragster category. And their number one goal at Hangstafers is to increase the productivity in the shop. Metalworking lubricants, coolants, all kinds of stuff. You got to go to the website and check them out. And so go to hangstafers.com to find out more information. Alan Reinhart always says, like, the one thing that DSR and JFR have in common is Hangstafers metalworking lubricants. We're happy to have them on board, happy to have them helping our WFO radio listeners in their shop. Hangstafers metalworking lubricants, trying to make you a little more efficient in the shop.
Hey, WFO Universe. Want something for free? Send a self-addressed stamped envelope with plenty of postage, and we'll load it up with free WFO stickers. That's right, I said free. Send your envelope, care of Castello Media /WFO stickers to P.O. Box 848353, Pembroke Pines, Florida 33084. Do it now.
Hey, this is Joe Castello, and we'll be back to the show in a second. But first, I want to tell you about CompetitionPlus.com. There's a reason CompetitionPlus.com is the leader among drag racing electronic magazines. Their trained staff is always on alert and always asking the tough questions. The end result is hard-hitting drag racing journalism with up-to-the-minute reporting. For over a decade, CompetitionPlus.com has been a pioneer as drag racing's go-to source for the latest in news, race coverage, and high-quality photography. Their trained staff thrives on getting the inside stories, and their columnists study their topics before they hit their first keystroke. When it comes to covering the races, they leave you feeling as if you've actually been to the race. CompetitionPlus.com is an honest-to-goodness, free drag racing magazine, published by the most passionate of drag racing fans, who just happen to be journalists. Don't wonder what's going on in the drag racing world. Be in the know daily. Log on to CompetitionPlus.com.
Hey, this is Kathy Fisher. Join Joe Castello and myself every Sunday morning on Motor Trend for Performance TV, 8:30 a.m. Eastern. We'll see you then.
Now back to WFO Radio, NHRA Nitro.
NHRA Nitro podcast rolling along. Oh, yeah, we're making our way to Vegas, baby. Vegas, baby. Vegas. Yeah, love it. Love Vegas. Love the event. So many years, I thought to myself, yeah, I don't know if I want to mix my Vegas stuff with my work stuff, and I'll have to be somewhere, and I really just want to get lost in the clock on Vegas, and then next thing you know, it's 4 a.m. But I was so wrong. It's perfect. It is so perfect to go to the track, spend the day, go back to the hotel, get cleaned up a little bit, go do one or two things, have a meal, check out a casino, and then get back and get ready. And one of the best things I did, well, I'll save it for my time. Tail end of the show, my time, right? Which I think I've already mentioned it once. But I'll save the whole story for my time at the end of the show because it was a great experience for me. Now, you know, not everybody will agree, but it is a great experience for me. Tommy Johnson coming up momentarily. Right now, though, I want to tell you about Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School and the Dragster Adventure. The phone number is 866-480-7223. That's the phone number, 866-480-7223. The Dragster Adventure, which makes a great gift. You can go on there and just buy it, and then the person you get it for will work out where they're doing it, because they're going to Fontana, California, and they're going to Joliet, Illinois, and they're going to Baytown, Texas, and Woodburn, and Norwalk, and Reading. They are traveling. Oh, the Reading sold out. Sorry, folks. Oops, you missed it. There are so many classes that are kind of selling out because people want this experience. It's just so hard to get. 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, 130 in the quarter mile, and maybe even side-by-side drag racing. You just show up, and they provide everything else. And you don't have to go far because they travel around. This is an experience. You know, the adrenaline junkies out there in the world, they want to feel something, and they want to be able to talk about it for the rest of their lives. This is it. And so if you've got a group of guys, you want to go do something cool, if you've got a bachelor party, like, yeah, let's do this before we do something else, check out the Dragster Adventure, frankhawley.com, for your sales team, for your best clients. It's a great reward. You've heard of the carrot and the stick approach. This is the carrot part of that. 866-480-7223, frankhawley.com. And, of course, tell them you heard about it on WFO Radio. Frank Hawley, a lot of champion drivers out there went to Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School. All right, let's keep on going. Next up, joining us now from his Hellcat, Tommy Johnson Jr. has had an explosive start to the season. We're going to talk all about it as he gets ready for Vegas. TJ, how are you?
Good, Joe. Doing good. That's an understatement, explosive start to the season.
Yeah, and I feel a little bad because I'm going over the list of people like, who should I have on the show? But you've got an interesting story, right? You've got an interesting start to the season. But before we get into that, though, let's look back at the successes of the past. You are driving a Hellcat that you earned with your performance last year, best of the DSR funny cars. How does it feel?
It's pretty cool. I'll tell you what, I had to go to Chicago today, do an appearance for Stratasys and another sponsor of ours. So I thought, you know what? The line lock and the trans brake doesn't work until it has 500 miles on it. So I thought, you know, got to break it in, get 500 miles on it so I can go race Wednesday night.
There you have it. And that whole Wednesday night test and tune at Indy is like got to be the coolest thing in the world because like all the real regular NHRA drag racers are out there with their regular stuff. Guys like Tommy Johnson and Kevin McKenna.
Yeah, it's a good time. You know, we all loved racing, so why not? Your Wednesday night, why not go out and have a little fun and, you know, get to see other people that maybe not, you know, new to drag racing coming out there and enjoying it. So it's a good time. I mean, you have a hard time on Wednesday nights in the Indianapolis area not seeing some crew people or a lot of people from race teams out there.
Absolutely. And Hellcat, obviously, you're a Dodge driver, and it's a very cool car, period, end of story. But this one's got to be special because you earned it.
Yeah, it is. I'll tell you what, it was neat, you know, to have that challenge and have Dodge get on board, a great supporter of ours, and you know, just to see them get behind it and throw a little something extra out there and to be able to win it. And, you know, once I've got it, I mean, I knew it was a fast hot rod, but it's a luxury car that happens to be really fast. You know, it's a really, really nice car, and I'm enjoying it a lot.
They're very popular. And, we've started a new podcast about Factory Stock Showdown, and, people identify with them, whether it be a Scat Pack or a regular Challenger or something as cool as the Hellcat or the Demon. People relate and they feel connected to it, and it sounds like you're getting that experience also.
Yeah, it is. I thought, okay, that's cool. We're going to get a hot rod. We can go out and run it. But I love driving the thing. It's the Dodge Charger is a pretty cool car. Not only do I get to race one, I get to drive one on the street. It's pretty cool.
That is awesome stuff. All right, let's get into the start of the season. You're sitting 5th in the point standings, but all I'm thinking about is what you have gone through as a human being, having been through 3 wicked explosions at the start of the season. A thrash out in Arizona, you guys put it together, you go through another explosion, and then in qualifying out in Gainesville. Let me just ask you, what are they related? What is the source? What's going on? Best as you know.
Yeah, I mean that's a bit of the problem is none of the 3 are related at all, and they're random problems that never normally happen. I said I almost wish it was a problem area and we could address it and we could fix it and put an end to it, but it's not that. It's more of a bad luck thing. I mean, how many times you break an axle? Well, I've done it twice, but they're very rare. And the second one, the only thing we can find is it looks like the ignition maybe misfired at a certain point in the run. And, the last one, it was an intake valve issue, So it's 3 random things that aren't really a problem. Our tune-up is really good. The car's performing excellent. It's just 3 things that were kind of out of our control, and it's more of a racing bad luck than anything.
Wow, which that happens. These cars, just going down the racetrack, period at all, getting from start to finish under power and popping the chutes and making the turnoff is a major accomplishment. And so occasionally things are going to go wrong, and they're going to go wrong rapid fire.
Yeah, I mean, you're making some pretty serious horsepower, and when you're doing that, you're pushing stuff to the limit. And from time to time, you're going to have unforeseen failures. So, it's you try to address everything the best you can, and sometimes there's not much you can do about it. You just lick your wounds and move on. But the cool thing is that it hasn't really affected our performance. The car is still, you go out and let's say it blows up and it hurts your best supercharger, and then all of a sudden the car's not running well, and then it really affects you down the road, and your performance starts to fail from it. But it hasn't done that. Our team has been a really strong team. The guys have put in a lot of work and keep fighting, and the car keeps performing. So as a driver, you pull the starting line and knowing that you have a good race car, and at some point these things are going to go back the other way. And I said, if things come in 3, I've done my 3, and I should be good for the rest of the year.
There you go. I like your attitude. You got it out of the way, and you did go to the second round in Gainesville and lose a heartbreaker of a race to Jack. You were both 60s on the tree. He's 63, you're 69. You outran him by 6 thou. He had you by a couple more on the tree. So it was a couple of thousandth race that could have gone either way.
7 10,000ths, Joe.
Yeah. Oh, but you're not counting 7, or anything, 10, right? 7.
No, 10. Not at all.
Brutal.
I mean, the real heartbreaker of that was I came back, and we're putting all the safety systems on the cars, and we're trying to perfect that, to prevent any kind of catastrophic things. And we have a thing on the car that it shuts it off, and trying to make it sure it shuts it off right at the finish line and doing all that. And we just put some new ones on over the winter, and it actually shut the car off a little early. And it's that even makes it a little tougher to swallow, to know that it probably cost us 7 10,000ths of a second, shutting it off a little bit too soon. But you got to figure that out. You got to know where that point is, and unfortunately, it found it second round when we didn't need it to find it. So, it's in our hearts, we feel like we should have won that race, and we were confident that we can go to Vegas and come out strong.
Well, exactly, and that's all you can do, and that's what the early part of the season is for, to figure out and sort out many things. So let's talk about JC and the 5-disc clutch. I know that Dickey has talked about and is moving back towards the 6-disc clutch, and I'm under the impression that Ron Tobler is going to continue with the 5-disc clutch because of the vast amount of data. Do you care Is that something that you care? You want to stick with the 5, or you see some other folks going on to 6? Is like what does that matter as far as Tommy Johnson Jr. is concerned?
To me, it doesn't matter. As long as the car runs good, I don't care what's in there. We can take the clutch out as long as it'll go down the racetrack. I don't care. But it is crew chief preference, and you're right. It's the data. We have so many runs with the 5-disc, and our tune-up with the 5-disc clutch was pretty darn good. And we were one of the last to switch to the 6-disc. And when we had to change some track preps, it just didn't fit what we were trying to do, and it didn't have a lot of data. It wasn't that you couldn't figure it out. It was how long would it take you to figure it out, and we just felt like we couldn't afford to do that. And we couldn't utilize maybe all the advantages of a 6-disc because of the track prep. So we elected to go back to 5, and it's paid off for us in great folds because all the data, and we were very consistent in going down the track towards the end of the season last year, especially in the countdown, and really made a charge late in the season. And we've come out in 2019 and kind of continued that. So it's I'm all in favor of the 5-disc. If the car continues to run like this, and the reason they all went to 6-disc because of the power level increased, and it made the car more consistent. It dealt with the heat and the 5-disc wanting to lock up. And with the track prep the way it is, you really can't utilize all that power that we've gained, and you have to more finesse these tracks nowadays. So the 5-disc was definitely an advantage for our team, and maybe others have more data with the 6, and they're okay with it. But for us, 5-disc is definitely better for our team in the long run.
Interesting, very interesting. What about the new body that you guys are using? The Hellcat body, I know last year Jack and Matt Hagan were first to debut it. I am under the impression that there's certain work that has to be done to the chassis. You vaporized a few. Are you going to be back in the new body? You going to run the old body? What's up with inventory of bodies? And more importantly, do you see a marked difference as the driver between the two, or can you go back and forth very easily?
As a driver, I don't see too much difference. I mean, I look at the view out the windshield, and the view out the windshield's about the same in both, and it definitely it drives good, but the body we had before I felt was a pretty good body, but there's a few things that it's on paper should be an advantage. So if we can take advantage of that, it's great. I was asking the same question when I got back to the shop after Gainesville, like, what's our status on bodies? We actually ran Sunday in Gainesville with the 18 body, so the car performed flawless. But we got back, we got a brand new 19 Dodge Charger Hellcat ready to go, and we also have a spare ready to go. So the Fab Shop, I tell you what, they got to give a shout out to those guys. They've done a tremendous job. We've pushed the schedule a little bit on a few of these body mountings, and they've come through for us. So the guys have worked some long hours, and we're going to Vegas with 2 brand new Hellcat bodies, and I'm intending on using these 2 bodies for the rest of the season if we can.
That is good attitude. I like where your head's at, Tommy. Now let's talk 4-wide drag racing. Going to Vegas last year, the first, the inaugural, it was a sellout. Jeff Foster and the team over there thrashed to put together the track. Everybody had amazing things to say about smoothness and just everything top to bottom. It was great. It was a banner event. This is year 2. Of course, we want to build on it. You guys, as the drivers, you got to go through the challenge of dealing with the different strategy of 4-wide drag racing, which is basically this: staging is more challenging because there's more people, and also you can win by finishing second. So you can't ever quit. You have to get after it, even if it's spinning the tires. You got to try to hustle it down through there in eliminations because maybe everybody else is having problems as well.
Yeah, I mean, the 4-wide's a little different animal. It takes a lot more thought process, as a driver. Your concentration level is always high, but it has to actually be intensified a little bit. It's just a little more going on the starting line. The staging is probably the hardest part, like you said. And, I felt like last year at Vegas, we should have won that race. It got away from us, and it said I red lighted in the final. I still don't know if I believe it because, as a driver, when you red light, oh, I might have been a little early, but I felt like I wasn't at all. I felt like normal every round, and so I feel like we got some revenge to take care of. We had a dominant car last year and ran really well. The track is a year on it now. The track surface, I even know in the fall race, was much better than it was at the spring race last year because it's a really good track, but down track didn't have quite enough rubber on it last year, and we were having some tire spinning problems on the top end. But I fully expect to come back this year, be excellent track surface, and should be a great show for the fans. And it is. I've actually won a couple rounds by continuing to pedal the car because not knowing where the other driver was and was able to advance. So on Sunday you've got a lot more work in your hands. The staging process, and then also if anything happens down track. I'm just looking for a smooth weekend. We're going to go up there and lead the starting line and go right down the racetrack and not have to worry about any of that.
That is great. In a perfect world, that will be what happened. I'm interested to hear you talk a little bit more about that reaction time. I was looking back at the ladder from last year, and I did see that couple of thous, like 7 thou early. A driver knows, but at the same time, like what, a glitch, what could it be? That's such a tough situation.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's not much you can do about changing it. But we researched it, and I don't know if it's sun reflection or whatever. We did have shiny chrome wheels in the front. I got a red light there in the spring, and I also got a red light in the fall race in the same lane. It's like, what's going on here? But I've talked to Foster and talked to Brockmeyer and all of them, and they swear up and down it's all good. But in the back of your mind, we're going to go there and probably. We'll probably black the wheels out, I'm sure. We're not going to go up there with shiny wheels just in case because, who knows, sun angle at that time of the year in the spring and in the fall. And not sure what happened, but I watched Chris McGahey in Pro Stock go a couple thou red right in front of me, and then I went red right behind him. And I just, you always have that little bit of doubt in the back of your mind. And I have very few red lights in my entire career, and it was just ironic that you have 2 of them last year, and they're both in the same lane, the same track. So it's like, I don't know what's going on here, but I just assume not run lane 2 if we don't have to.
Well, exactly. As simple as that. Whatever the driver needs to be comfortable, if it's blacked out wheels, running away from that lane, whatever the deal is. But that is a little bit of insight that we'll be watching over the course of the weekend. Now, okay, Vegas. I was just talking with Alan Reinhart not long ago about how now that I've learned to mix my drag racing with my Vegas experience, I really like it. Is there anything you like to do while you're at the Vegas race, like a place you like to go? Is there something or do you treat it like a regular race and kind of stay away from the chaos?
Well, in the back in the day, maybe it was not a regular race, but as you get a little older, a little smarter, a little wiser, you probably try to treat it more like a regular race. But it is a great town, and it's probably one of my favorite races on tour. And not only because I've actually done well there at that race a lot of times, it's just it's a fun event. My wife's coming out. We're going to go have some dinner. My birthday's on Saturday, and we'll probably go out. We're trying to look at going to Aerosmith. I got a couple of buddies that work for Aerosmith, and hit them up, say, hey, what's the chances we can come see you? And so, just a lot going on, a lot of great food, a lot of great restaurants, a lot of great shows, and it's been a memorable race for me over the years. Just love the atmosphere and love the race, and hopefully one of these days they'll get the interstate construction done, and it'll be a fun time.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only downside, getting out there, which is not
I
even
think
really
it's been under construction, I think, since I've been going there, so I don't know if they'll ever finish it or not.
They're never going to. By the way, you got married during the off season. Congratulations on that. That is a big deal.
Yeah, it's been great. She's knew nothing about racing when we broke her in, and now she's a huge fan, and it's always fun when I call home and she says, I saw it drop a cylinder, and I think, how'd you learn that? She says, I watched, she found a passion for the sport, and just really glad that she's so involved and has such a big fan of it and a supporter of it.
That is wonderful. No, I think it is great. Tommy, I wish you the best of luck. Also, I want to thank you for retiring from Performance TV. That has been very good for me. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, it's a good time. I enjoyed that, and who knows, one of these days maybe we can go back and do something together. But you got to be where like today, doing appearances for DSR, and got a little parts business on the side, and so many things going on. It's not much home time, so I thought, maybe I can't concentrate and do my best at all of them. So let's rule some things out, and glad you got the opportunity, and glad the show continued.
Absolutely. The only thing, though, is hanging with Kathy Fisher, I got to hear a lot of Tommy stories, which is great. I got I get to hear all the old school scuttlebutt.
Well, hopefully they're all good. I'm sure there's a few bad ones in there once in a while, but hopefully they're all good. We had a great time and really enjoyed it. It was a fun show. Learned a lot, actually, and met a lot of good connections over doing the show. And it's one of these days I'd like to go back and do some more of that stuff. It was fun. I enjoyed it, and got to see a lot of neat products over the years, and there's several of them that I use now.
That is the truth. That is the truth, folks. And I'm living that experience now. Like, it's to me, it's like a mini Shark Tank. You know, like people come in with ideas and concepts that I never even thought of, and they're living the American dream, right? Like trying to come up with a product. It's really interesting, and I am learning that experience through it. So again, I would love to have you back at some point. But bottom line is, I want to see you go out there and excel in your primary job, which is NHRA drag racing. And it looks like you're driving a Hellcat. You got the bad stuff out of the way in the first 3 races, and you're looking like you're going to be pretty good. So, Tommy, I want to thank you for coming on the show. Congratulations on winning that Hellcat in 2018. I know you'd like to do it again. They are doing it again, so I don't know if it's going to be the exact same car, but yeah, that's something you're in the mix for.
Yeah, I got to make sure we keep this going. You know, this is pretty cool. I said, so they're going to do this again, huh? That's cool. All right, I'm all in for that. It's a really nice car. And Amy says, well, maybe we can get this one when we're done with it, and then we can have it his and hers. I'm like, okay, cool. She actually loves that thing more than I do, I think.
Well, I believe it. And yeah, you got the inside line on it. You'll definitely know where it's been and what has happened to it between now and then. I'm sure they'll cut you a deal.
I'm hoping that's the deal.
I agree. And now, like, we gave it a lot of pub and coverage on this show. I'll send you the clip so you can justify it. Tommy, thank you very much. I'll see you this weekend. Thanks for coming on WFO Radio.
Thanks, Joe. Let's talk for a win next week.
How about that? Yeah, you might get the WFO bump. That happens, you know, and I call someone out of nowhere. The next week they end up on the show as a winner. We'll see. We'll test the theory right here.
I'm all in.
All right. Thanks, Tommy.
Yeah, no problem, Joe.
Tommy Johnson Jr. with us here on WFO Radio from his Hellcat, right? From his Hellcat, he's sitting in the parking lot revving the engine. And I think that is great. I thought that was fun and just goes to show you. And there's a whole thing. And this podcast and other shows and all the social media really is a method of showing you what's going on, that this is like a subculture of American society, that these people are competing all the time, and that Tommy is enjoying the fruits of his competition a year ago right now, because the folks at Chrysler FCA decided that they're going to run a program within Don Schumacher Racing, and whoever scores the highest in points is going to get to drive a Hellcat the following year. How awesome is that? I think it's awesome, and it's just something extra to race for within Don Schumacher Racing. Very, very cool deal. Congratulations to Tommy. And, of course, his birthday this weekend. How cool is that? All right. We got Jake Sundstrom coming up next from NHRA National Dragster, going to explain the power rankings. Before we do that, though, I want to tell you about HusseyPerformance.net. Hussey Performance, quality copperhead gaskets, any bore, any size, any thickness. This is for you engine builders out there. If you're just a regular Joe like me, not necessarily building a high-performance engine, well, this is not for you. If you are a race team, a bracket racer, a sportsman racer, an alcohol racer, a nitro racer, a tractor puller, maybe you do boosted import stuff, take a second to listen, because Hussey stocks gaskets in increments of 1/1000th of an inch, and if they don't stock it, they can custom make gaskets for any application. This allows racers to get their exact compression ratio that they're going for and tune the car better, right? Hussey's got over 40 years experience in the copper industry. That's how they're able to get the best copper. They know the right people, they know how to get it, and they've been doing it for 40 years. The tightest of tolerance is 0.5 of an inch, which is not a lot. And does it take a long time to make a custom gasket? Like, oh, I've got a custom application that I made, and this is different and that's different. It typically takes less than a week. They want to help you race. They want to help you get out there. They want to make it possible. So next day shipping is also available. Here's what you got to do. Go to HusseyPerformance.net or call David Allen. This is his cell number, man. 724-318-8292. 724-318-8292. Everything in the shop is made in America. David personally inspects every single gasket that they ship, and it's all made in Ambridge, Pennsylvania. 724-318-8292. HusseyPerformance.net. When we come back, it's going to be Jake Sundstrom talking NHRA Power Rankings.
Everybody, listen carefully.
Now you listen to me. Why do you listen? WFO, you guys are number one.
Honest. Listen.
Hey, racers and race fans, I want to tell you about the motorsports guys. Terry McMillan from Elkhart, Indiana, has got a new venture, and we want you to hit the website. They've got all kinds of great new parts, pieces, filters, oils on there, including Amelie's new Pro Racing 70 oil with Molly. It's used by many professional drag racers, including Terry McMillan, for larger turning curves and avoiding those drop cylinder moments. It saves bearings and crankshafts and provides more compression with better ring seal and less fuel in your oil. You can get it at motorsportsguys.com. We'll carry Amelie, they carry Wolf's Head Oil and Lubricants, Molly Filters, K&N Filters, All-Star Performance Racing, and high-performance parts from Motor State Distributing and Lane Automotive. It's going to be a one-stop shop. They're going to have it all. But most importantly, oil, Amelie, better than it has to be since 1903, available at motorsportsguys.com. Check it out. Bookmark it, motorsportsguys.com. Terry McMillan stepping up as a supporter of WFO Radio. Check him out, motorsportsguys.com.
Start your education at full speed with the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. Accelerate your career as a high-performance engine builder with classroom instruction and practical hands-on experience in the lab, on the dyno, and at the track. In addition to the block, head, and CNC programs, SAM now offers motorsport, EFI tuning, and an Associates of Applied Science degree. And SAM is a military-friendly school, approved to train veterans and other eligible persons under the GI Bill. Start your education at full speed. Go to samtech.edu today.
If you're looking for extra horsepower, check out WilsonManifolds.com, the leader in intake manifold and nitrous oxide development. They've set records and won championships in just about every series in professional racing. Sprint Cup, Nationwide, Camping World Truck Series, NHRA Pro Stock, right up to the Nitro classes. If you're looking for extra horsepower, check out the leader in intake and nitrous development at WilsonManifolds.com.
WFO Radio is brought to you in part by Extreme Velocity 3 Drag Racing. Download for your mobile device. Win your way on the show. WFO.
Now, back to WFO Radio, NHRA Nitro.
At the tail end of the show, we're going to hear from Marvin Rodak, and Marvin is going to be on. I know I'm going to ask him some questions about coffee and such because it is a very interesting subject, but I want to tell you about RodaksCoffeeandGrills.com right now. Marvin Rodak, great guy. You're going to hear from him. If you've never heard from Marvin, he's a wonderful human being, Renaissance-type character. Pilot, drag racer, builds his own computers. But back in the day, was working in an auto restoration shop, and everybody makes the trudge over to the coffee pot. It was all crusty and gross, and he said, there's got to be a better way. I got to learn about this stuff. So went on this journey of educating himself about coffee. This happened in the 1970s. They started RodaksCoffeeandGrills.com in 1976 and has been going ever since. Now, we're going to hear about him in Funny Car Chaos, but Funny Car Chaos is actually a blend of his coffee as well, purpose blended for drag racers and avid racing fans. Perfectly balanced, smooth coffee with great body and hints of sweet chocolate and nuts, plus the brightness of muted berries and the nurtured finesse of a long smoky burnout with lingering clutch dust. Check it out. Go to RodaksCoffeeandGrills.com. I personally am in love with the hot sauces, and I'm all over a couple of new shows. They're not new anymore, right? On YouTube, the Hot Ones interview show, Eating Hot Sauce. And I've started into the more and more different types of hot sauce experiment, going into different areas and avenues, trying things. Oh, man, this one's too hot, that kind of deal. But I keep coming back to the Habanero Endorphin Booster from Rodak because it's got heat, but it really does. It bring out that endorphin part of it. Like you feel happy. You feel happy. I do. Maybe it doesn't affect other people the same way, but you get a hint of it. It doesn't burn you up. It's great. The Habanero Endorphin Booster is my favorite. Plus, he's got 3 others that are fantastic as well. Check it out. Go to the website, RodaksCoffeeandGrills.com, and the best thing is you call him and he answers. 817-924-6821. If you get the coffee or the hot sauce from Marvin Rodak, you are supporting the sport of drag racing and you're supporting WFO Radio. Now, it's not Folgers Crystals. Got to tell you, it's not just a basic coffee. This is what we would call, what we would call in the biz a premium product, right? 817-924-6821. Check it out, RodaksCoffeeandGrills.com. Marvin Rodak will be on this show momentarily. But next, Joining us now from the NHRA National Dragster, he is the associate editor. Jacob Sundstrom joins us. Jacob, welcome back to WFO Radio. How are you?
Doing well, brother. How you doing?
I am great. Now, I've been wanting to have you on the show, and this is the perfect week as we get ready for Vegas. I know you're going to be out there, Denso 4 wides. But something new for 2019, the power rankings have got a lot of people talking, and I know that's the point. And I want my listeners to understand where they came from, what's the point, why we're doing it, and why, they don't always match the guy who won the last race. It's not always the guy who won the last race. You, from what I understand, are part of a collaborative team, but you held a lot of weight, Jacob, in creating this power rankings algorithm, system. Please describe what it is and how you put it together.
Yeah, so this is basically something that I was working on already at the end of last year. And so Tony Pedregon and Brian Lones, who obviously make up the NHRA on Fox booth, kind of approached me looking for something like this. And it just kind of was a coincidence. I was already working on it. Basically, the idea is coming up with a way to rate and or rank teams that isn't about, wins or round wins, because we already have a great stat for that. They're round wins and points, right? So it's kind of trying to take some of that out of it and take a lot of the luck that goes into drag racing, which is, similar to any other sport. So that was kind of the genesis of it. And we spent a lot of time during the off season kind of leading up into Pomona to kind of come up with a system that we were pretty happy with. And I think we've done that. So basically this is something that takes in a lot of different factors and on-track performance to try to come up with a rating that we feel is, representative of what they've actually done, because I think pretty much everyone who's watched a fair amount of drag racing knows that the person who wins a race is not, and wins even maybe a series of races isn't necessarily the person whose performance has been best over that series of races.
That is so true. And, you can dominate qualifying and something crazy or silly or ridiculous happens, and then you're out first round and it doesn't matter, and you have to wait till the next race to show how powerful you are. And that's part of it. So for the WFO audience, and I know you have already done this on NHRA.com, and folks, you can go on there and see exactly what goes into the power rankings that you're seeing tweeted out on NHRA's Twitter account. And we got a really cool graphic now, Jacob. I love that. That turned out real well. But give us some insight into the elements that create the power rankings.
Yeah, like the big ones, like, the obviously on TV and everything, they like to talk about like the big number of things that are going into this, but I like to try to keep it way more simple than that. It's basically like your average elapsed time, your success rate. And when I say success rate, I think that's something that can be kind of confusing at first. It's basically the percentage of time that you get down the track under power, right? And then it's your average mile per hour, your reaction time versus the number of times that you're red lighting. So we do have a system that kind of punishes you for red lighting too much. And we also factor in your 60-foot time. And the idea there is that it's kind of a balancing between, reaction time and your 60-foot time, because there is obviously some push and pull there, especially in categories like funny car and less so top fuel, but especially funny car, where someone who's chunking it in all the time, you will see some kind of correlation between reaction time and 60-foot time. So those are the big ones that are really going in to make up what you end up seeing in your power ranking.
No, I love your success rate. I did a totally unscientific Steve Torrance breakdown over the final 6 races, and one of the numbers that blew me away, and off the top of my head, I don't think I have it exactly, but I think he only didn't get down 3 times. Right, out of all the runs in the entire countdown, I think his success rate was like, there were 3 aborted runs, and I just called them aborted runs. But you're basically doing that same thing, and I think that's important. Did something go wrong, or did he go all the way down the racetrack?
Right, and like that's something that like people are already talking about, right? Like, I mean, I didn't come up with this idea. This is something I got from talking to Ron Tobler, over a year ago. And, like you said, people have different names for it. And even the way you cut off what is a successful run, what's not a successful run, is going to be a little bit different. depending on who you talk to. But at some level, it doesn't even really matter, right? It's kind of like when you get close to it, and especially when you get a certain number of runs in, once you're talking about, 30, 40 runs, you know who's good, you know who's not good. And we know that Steve Torrance, or someone like Ron Capps or whoever is really, really, really good in that area.
Is this the kind of thing, and I understand there are 15 stats that are included in the power rankings, that is going to get, I would imagine it's going to become stronger over time as you compile more data? Or did you go back to last year and already start with the data? Like where is the genesis, the first date of stat for the power rankings?
Yeah, so right now what I'm doing is this is the last 6 races of data. What I basically found is that 6 races is big enough so that it's not totally stupid. But once we get to a point where we are including more than 6 races in this season, I will take that bigger sample of data. So basically, once we get through Atlanta, we're going to take that bigger portion of data. Like, I think that maybe on TV or whatever, they might display both ratings, right? So that we can see kind of a what have you done for me lately type thing, because that'll be interesting. But for me, like, you always take the bigger sample of data when you have it available. So just like, so people know what you're seeing on TV, that is including both, well, it will include in the next show, Pomona, Phoenix, Gainesville, but we're also talking about, and now I don't even remember what our last 2 races were last year. I know Pomona, Vegas, and maybe it was Charlotte. I know we did some schedule moving around and shuffling, but so it was the last 3 races from last season and the first 3 races from this season. So it is, and at least in my opinion, a big enough sample size for this to actually matter.
Now, is it only, okay, let's advance to halfway through the season. It is still based on the last 6 races at all times, like the last rolling 6 races. Otherwise, it's not up to date. That's the point of it. This is power rankings now over the last 6 races. They will roll throughout the season.
I think we'll probably do both, where we'll say this is your full 2019 rating, and we'll also show this is the last 6 rating, so that people have the opportunity to see what you've done over the course of the season, while also showing this is the last 6 races. And those will be, kind of juxtaposed against one another, so you have an opportunity to see both.
That is very interesting. So the ratings have come out pretty recently, and I'm looking at what I feel to be the most recent story. Maybe there is another one coming out immediately, but the leaders that I have got listed right now are Torrance, Robert, Jeg, and Eddie Krawick, and I wouldn't disagree with any of those, just right off the top of my head anecdotally. Now, I know Steve hasn't had the start of the season that equaled the dominant finish of last year, but I don't think anybody doubts that they're still the team to beat.
Right, and his rating has certainly dropped as a result of this season. If you were to look at, his small sample of 2019 results, which, is not being published or whatever, he has definitely not been the best 2019 driver. But, based on obviously what he did the last 3 races last season, looking at that bigger sample size, it's pretty hard to argue with him being up there. That being said, there are certainly some drivers kind of knocking on the door. I mean, I think, again, and I said this last year, a big part of Steve Torrance's success has certainly much to do with how good they are, but also a lot to do with the quality of competition that he's facing in that field.
Interesting. And Robert Hight, we had a conversation at the Winter Nationals this year. Robert Hight came out of the box, #1 power ranking, and J.R. Todd was the champ. And it was like, I said to Jacob, I said, hey, man, you're going to catch some hell for that because, and you had a really good answer. And this is before the start of the season. And it's proving to be true. And I feel like that has got to be very sweet in that, sometimes the numbers say something and it might not be popular. And look what Robert and Jimmy are doing. They have been dominant. They don't want to say the word dominant, and they fight against the word dominant, but they have been dominant.
Yeah, and, I think it's one of those things where I understand why, I think if you were to do kind of a generic power ranking type thing where you just say, yeah, you put the champ #1, whatever, I think that makes sense to some level. But if you were to look back at the last 3 seasons, or not even that long, since Jimmy and Robert have been paired up, really the only other duo and funny car that you could even rank against them is got to be Ron Capps and Ron Tobler, right? I mean, that's not a diss on anybody else, that's just a statement of fact, man. Like there's nobody else that really compares them other than maybe Dickie Venables and Matt Hagan. But the fact that they struggled so much, obviously, at the end of last season, I think puts them in a little bit of a hole. But my point being, there's no shame in not being better than the best. That's just kind of the way these things go.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I agree. It has been a tale of consistency. They have been great. They've been in the mix. Sometimes they win, sometimes they finish second. It depends on the cosmic forces, and that's interesting too. Jag and Eddie Krawick, of course, sample size very small for Eddie, who's going back to last year, is always, right? He's always one of the top guys. And Jag, clearly, just based on his resume and the fact that he finished 2018 really strong, and last year's champ has vacated the sport.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for Jeg, it's just one of those things where, I mean, you saw how he performed last year. I mean, if Tanner Gray's not in the sport, he's the champ last year, obviously. They performed very well, and it's going to be one of those – Pro Stock's going to be very interesting this year, because especially with the shortened schedule, where I think you're going to see that things like driver performance in particular is going to matter a lot more. Just because those qualifying points are just not going to matter as much. And what I'm basically saying there is that guys like Roger Brogdon are going to have cars that are very, very good. Dude is averaging a 74 light right now, and that is just not going to cut it. Man, that crap wouldn't cut it in top fuel, let alone in pro stock. So it doesn't really matter that he's got the best car in the class right now. If his lights don't improve, he's going to get beat a lot by a lot of dudes in the first and second round going forward, and that's going to be very good for teammates like Jake Coughlin and Eric Enders.
Wow, and that's why Jacob Sundstrom is a must-follow on Twitter at NHRA Sundstrom, is because Jake comes from a school of no sugarcoating anything. And that's why I really enjoy speaking with him out at the racetrack, folks. The power rankings, the point is it's supposed to be raw, right? It's supposed to be raw, and maybe people will not be happy about what they see.
Well, I mean, I think to a degree that'll be true, but I think that, I'll be honest, a lot of this has not really been terrifically surprising so far. I mean, you look at who the leaders have been going into this point, it has been a lot of, the people that you would expect. I mean, I think, honestly, the biggest surprises have also been kind of backed up by performance this year. I think in pro stock, you look at a guy like Greg Anderson being pretty close to the bottom of these lists, and that's, I'm sure, disappointing, but also if you were to talk to Greg Anderson, he would say that his performance has been really disappointing. And that's just true, especially because that car just has really struggled to get down the racetrack this year. So I think, the racers are very self-critical, and I think obviously you spending way more time talking to these racers than I do. You know that to be a fact.
Yeah, it is, and they take it. They take it personally. How can they not? This is about them. And as much as it is a team sport, and it is, the face of the team is always the driver, 90% of the time, 98% of the time. The driver takes the glory and the driver takes the heat. And even if it's not exactly always their fault, they're gonna focus on themselves. So, Jake, if people want to follow these power rankings on a regular basis, like keep up with them, like see who it is, imagine the newspaper, right, where people would go in and open up and check out the divisional standings in baseball, which change maybe a lot more often than, say, point standings after a race. They want to follow these things. What is the best way for them to follow the power rankings that you've created?
Yeah, we've got a dedicated page on the NHRA website, so that's NHRA.com/power-rankings. So you could go there and bookmark that if that's what you're into. You can also obviously follow me on Twitter, which Joe already plugged. That's NHRA Sundstrom. We're also publishing these now on the NHRA Twitter account, which I assume most of these people are already following, and we're also putting them on the NHRA on Fox show, which I'm sure everyone is tuning into every week anyway. So yeah, there's now a lot of avenues where these are being distributed. So a lot of ways to keep up with this stuff. Might
I make a suggestion right here, cold on the air, which is this something that goes out on the Jumbotron, right? Do we have like a bit for Sunoco Vision for this? Because I think this would be cool, and then it would go to NHRA.tv as well. Maybe it already exists and I have already missed it, but I don't recall seeing this, and if not, seems like a great piece of content.
That does seem like a good idea. That seems like an Evan thing, and I think you know how that goes. So maybe that's the thing to suggest to the big E.
There it is. Okay, we'll do that. I'll put that in the suggestion box because you got this nice little graphic here that's already on Twitter, plus the hashtag NHRA Power Rankings. All right, Jake. Before we let you go, general start of the season, and in particular, you were not at the Gator Nationals, right? You were not there.
That is accurate.
Yeah, that had to be very disappointing because it was such a great event, but you also have a good outsider's opinion. You got to watch it like everybody else. And so what was your take on the way the event went off?
Oh, I thought it was great. Yes, I did get to watch it on TV, got to watch the Fox show, which was, I thought, really, really well done. So that was great. So Richie Crampton won back-to-back Gator Nationals, just like we all predicted. So that was great.
Yeah.
We nailed it. I thought... Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. My picks turned out really, really well for the event, just like everyone else's did. I thought the event was really great, and we got to see a lot of really great speed. So obviously, the timing of putting down new concrete and stuff in that facility was could not have been better. I think the overall though for the start of the season, I think that things have gone, I think pretty much as planned, except for Steve Torrance not winning a race yet, which I think is really probably the biggest story even coming out of the Gator Nationals. I think there was probably a not small contingent thinking that was going to be his get healthy weekend. The fact that didn't happen was interesting. Other than that, Pro Stock Motorcycle looked really, really good there. And that's going to be a really fun class, I think, this year. I know ending maybe predictably with 2 Harleys in the final round, but other than that, with the record runs happening there, I think that's really, really fun and something that's going to continue to be fun as that arms race continues in that category.
Absolutely. No, totally agree. In fact, I just went back yesterday and watched the TV coverage, right? I like to let it breathe for a little while and got together with my dad and sat and watched and, kind of reminded of all the historic occurrences that went down, things that went down. Of course, Matt Smith electing to not run, just different things that as the season evolves, we're going to see some real clashes of personalities, of egos, of equipment. The Harley-Davidsons, the fact that Angel is now going the full year. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to get it going here this weekend. Denso, 4Wide. Hey, you're I don't want to say you're new to the sport because that's not really true anymore. You've been doing this full time for long enough to have a total and official appreciation of everything that happens. The 4Wide thing though, it's still new to everybody. And I'm kind of, trying to evolve beyond the what do you think about it kind of thing. But here I am asking you what you think about it. So are you fully integrated in 4Wide 2 times a year?
I don't know about 2 times a year because I'm only going to be going to one of the 4Wides this year. But I am going to the Vegas one, which I think is a lot more fun than the Charlotte one because it's in Vegas. No, I'm really looking forward to it. What I'm really looking forward to is having the bikes out west for the 4Wide this year, and I think that's going to be absolutely incredible. So having the bikes in Vegas twice a year, I think is really great, and I'm really looking forward to that. Especially having the bikes get a chance to go kind of back to back to start their season, I guess, is also something I'm looking forward to. And I think it'll be interesting to see how they run at this time of year. The weather's going to be a little bit warmer, and I think that'll be really interesting. Selfishly, I wish the bikes also ran in Houston because I know how quick they would run there, but I'll take what I can get. Bikes running 4Wide in Vegas is going to be great. I love the 4Wide event, more so as a fan because it can be a real challenge to cover, but it is a lot of fun. And if you are not currently planning on going to the 4Wide in Vegas, I would encourage you to go because it is extremely, extremely fun from a fan perspective.
Absolutely. Totally agree. And that's what wins it out. No, it's not traditional drag racing. Yes, it is a lot of fun. And yes, you've got a lot of people there checking out a spectacle. So why not come out and enjoy? Jacob, thank you so much for coming on the show. Once again, NHRA Sundstrom on Twitter, and I will retweet the power rankings right now, and we will put it out there. I appreciate your work, though, Jacob. To me, this is exactly what is necessary for the sport to grow. You got to have things to debate and talk about, and, am I right? Am I wrong? What do I think? And challenge people who are fans to move beyond, like, I like this guy. Well, that's great, but how's he doing? Is he good? Does he deserve to continue to go out there and run this amazing equipment when there's this awesome 22-year-old who is ready to jump into the seat, but there are no seats? Like, that is a backbone of every other sport, and now we have something like that in drag racing. So I think it is interesting that you're doing it, and I appreciate it and support it.
All right. Well, appreciate your time, man. Always good talking with you. And we'll see you in Las Vegas.
Thanks, Jacob. Appreciate it. Jacob Sundstrom, Associate Editor, NHRA National Dragster, and creator of the Power Rankings with us here on WFO Radio. And yeah, follow him on Twitter and follow along with the Power Rankings and watch as they evolve. And I know, just like with anything new, there are going to be people who are like, let's watch how it develops. That's it. Let's watch the analytics. Everything is about analytics now. I'm sure you follow other sports. Analytics comes to drag racing, power rankings, all these different factors factoring in. And we'll see what they say. And we'll keep track. And it will be fun. And I appreciate Jacob working to create something for us to talk and debate about and maybe disagree with. That's not his beef. He's creating something that we will all enjoy and maybe rip it apart or maybe enjoy it. He has created something new, and I am looking forward to watching how it works. Thanks to Jacob Sundstrom for coming on WFO Radio. Next up, it's going to be my time, but right now I want to tell you about Hangstifer's metalworking lubricants. Dr. Hangstifer, been going for a long time, and the prime directive at Hangstifer's, simple as this: products engineered to increase productivity. They've been going since 1937. They've got customer service all around the world. Machine shops in drag racing, whether it be DSR or JFR, the big machine shops use Hangstifer's. Now, maybe you have a factory, you manage a factory, maybe, who knows? But they have cutting lubricants and cooling oils. Go to Hangstifers.com and inspect what they have. There is a good chance they can help you be more efficient. Your tools will last longer. Your bits will last longer. Think of all of these added benefits. Elements that are beneficial are Bellaments. Hangstifers.com. Check them out. Hangstifers Metalworking Lubricants. All right, when we come back, it'll be my time with Marvin Rodak after this.
This is WFO Radio.
Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School. Whether you're a bracket racer who wants to get better or a thrill seeker looking to cross it off your bucket list, Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School can put you on the right track. Don't believe me? Tell him, Frank.
No matter how little or how much experience you have, we've got a program for you. So if driving a dragster is on your bucket list, there's no better time than now. And if you'd like to be a pro, well, here's funny car champ, Jack Beckman.
Hey, this is Jack Beckman. Long before I was Fast Jack, I was a bracket racer who went to the Frank Hawley School. The time I spent there was some of the most exciting, intense, and fulfilling moments ever in a race car. I feel the curriculum Frank developed greatly helped me win not only the Super Comp, but also the NHRA Nitro Funny Car Championship. Frank put me on the right track. What are you waiting for?
Call them at 866-480-7223. That's 866-480-7223. Or visit frankhawley.com.
Hey, this is Scott Palmer, driver of the NHRA Cat Spot Litter Top Fuel Dragster. Do you have a cat? Go to catspotlitter.com. Order it today. All natural product made out of coconuts, 100% biodegradable. All you NHRA fan cat owners, support our team. Go to catspotlitter.com.
This is Sean from Traverse City, Michigan. You ever get done with an episode of Ignition or Nitro and say, man, that's a good job. I'd like to give them a pat on the back and a cold beer. Well, with Patreon, you can. So send that drink down to Gio and Joe.
Now, back to WFO Radio, NHRA Nitro.
Final segment, NHRA Nitro, WFO Radio. If you ever miss an episode, you got to go to the archive. Now, where can you get the archive? Of course, Apple Podcasts, but a lot of people download a podcast and then delete it because they don't want it on their phone because they don't buy the biggest phone possible like you're supposed to. You're supposed to get the biggest phone possible because you don't want to have to be bothered deleting stuff eventually. Just get the biggest one. Now, that's very expensive and another story for another day. WFOradio.com. We've got a big full archive. You can go back years, see stories, all that. WFOradio.com. And in the mobile application that is free, WFO Radio has a mobile application that is free. you can listen to them all back to back to back and just start listening and keep listening all day long. Check it out, WFOradio.com. And since you're a listener, audible.com/WFO Nitro. Audible.com/WFO Nitro. Audible, a company that I'm sure you know, right? Audio entertainment, audio books, various subjects, various products. Audible.com/WFO Nitro. And you can start your 30-day free trial. Audible.com/WFO Nitro. You are a target because you are someone who likes to listen. Long-form listening. And that is just right for audible.com/WFO Nitro. All right, my time, tail end of the show. I'm excited about Vegas, but I want to yield my time. I want to tell you my one Vegas story at the very end after Marvin, but I want to yield my time. He is a longtime sponsor of WFO Radio. He's become a great friend. He is the coffee guru, or maybe he's more of a Sherpa. I don't know, but he's also a huge drag racing fan. This past weekend at North Star Dragway, something really cool went down, and Marvin Rodak from RodaksCoffeeandGrills.com was involved, and so let's get a report from Marvin. What went down? Marvin, welcome back to WFO Radio, first of all. How are you?
Doing great, Joe.
I'm glad to hear it, and I'm glad to hear you guys are racing again. So tell us about what went down this past weekend. Funny Car Chaos is a blend of coffee that you sell and that we are talking about all the time, but it is also a little Nitro series that's going on in Texas. Tell us about it.
Yeah, Funny Car Chaos was started 3 years ago as a single event and has expanded to 8 races in several states. It's a championship run, and this was the first event this weekend. Run What You Brung style of racing for Funny Car. There was nostalgia, nitro, as well as a lot of alcohol funny cars. Credible event, brutal competition. Weather Saturday was incredibly brutal, in the 40s, wind 30, gusting to 40. Man, it was tough, and competition was just stellar. Great event. Terry Haddock was there with his Pro Mod car. We had Jet car there. Kevin Kinsley not only debuting a nitro burning funny car for Chaos, also brought his Top Fuel dragster for exhibition run. Jet car there. It was unbelievable fan fest of entertainment.
Wow. See, to me, that's a perfect example. We were talking a little bit about the sport of drag racing earlier with Clay Millican. Just like, everybody says we're feeling it. I remember, I feel like drag racing's got a thing, got energy going on behind it. People are into it. But maybe that's just us, right? We like it. Of course, we're always going to think it. But events like this, the fact that at a track, and I don't want to characterize the track in any way, but, North Star Dragway, it's not a national event tour track, but it's a small track, that you got Kevin Kinsley and Terry Haddock and Mark Billington and others out there. You sent me the qualifying sheet. 359 with a 2 is at 195 miles per hour to the 8th mile. That is moving out. If you were a drag racing fan and just stumbled into this event, I think you would have been pretty impressed. And that's exactly what we're talking about, energy in the sport of drag racing. Not just NHRA, but everywhere.
Well, you're so right with that. And, Joe, in between the funny car rounds, man, there was, 15 or 20 old-school gassers there. There was old-school back half. I mean, it was nonstop action. Maxed out, great competition, and in the Chaos, when we got through, that sheet I sent you was round 2. Round 3 was the next day, man. They were bouncing off the wall and trying to deal with the track, and, man, there were some low numbers, not 59s going down, but over 200, 202, 204 miles an hour to the 8th, and man, everybody was just stepping up, wanted the trophy bad, and pushing it to the limit.
That is awesome. Now, you also sent me a photograph, and everybody needs to know that I'm like, it's my time, tail end of the show here, and I want to catch up with Marvin, and I think you'll be interested as well. So I'm kind of like shooting from the hip. Marvin, you sent me a picture of you and Roland Leong. Was that this past weekend?
Yeah, Funny Car Chaos. Chris Graves is a starter and promoter of it. Being that this is the third event, it's going into the championship run with 8 races. They brought him in as Grand Marshal for the event. Awesome guy. I've never had a chance to meet him. Fabulous guy to be with. What representation. John Hale was on the property, even though he sold his car. He was there, with his barbecue sauce, but hanging out. I mean, the place was packed with old school legends and walking around and helping teams, and just the atmosphere, the environment there is so relaxed. And I mean, you never know who you're going to bump into or who's going to wander in your trailer or your pits and hang out and visit with you.
Wow, very cool, very cool. Okay, not to put you on the spot, but everybody needs to know I'm totally putting Marvin on the spot. I just called him out of nowhere. Bottom line, how'd it turn out? Like, who won the thing?
I'm trying to think of his name. Mellendorf won it. It was almost Pedal Fest on Saturday because the track was going away. We wound up on the qualifying sheet round 3, or qualified number 3, and we went out round 1 and 3-round race. So semis went down, and it was Kevin Kinsley in his war wagon up against Mellendorf, and so Kevin got runner-up. Brand new car out, first time on the track, and those guys did one heck of a job. I think their best run was a 376 at over 200, so stellar for them. And like I said, he double dutied, making one lap in the Top Fuel Dragster. That was Friday. Saturday, man, there just wasn't enough track for it. It was pretty dicey, so they put that thing back up. And we had jet cars out there, and the only thing missing with jet cars was Joe Castello calling them.
Thank you very much for saying that. I appreciate that. So, all right, so Alan Middendorf picks up the win over Kevin Kinsley. That's a pretty good final round. And you were crewing on Mark Billington's car. Now, Mark runs Top Alcohol Funny Car with us when we come down there to the Motorplex. And you've been, doing more wrenching, Marvin. They're putting you to work now. You're working. You're not just, hanging out doing sponsor stuff, shaking hands, kissing babies. They got you turning wrenches.
Yeah, they got to have the old guy to blame when something's wrong. But, no, it's a ball working with Mark. Absolute brilliant guy. Raced for many, many years. He just doesn't have the exposure and the number of races that some of the other guys do because of what he does for a living in his schedule. Another thing that he does that we did double duty on Friday, he drives a fuel altered in the Outlaw Fuel Altered division. Raymond Austin owns a couple of those, and so we did double duty doing an altered exhibition run, and that went off stellar too. That was he ran a 78 and 202 or 203 on that run. So, all crowd pleasing stuff and just constant entertainment going down the track.
Very, very cool. I think it is great, and the fact that these are the kind of things I get a little envious of. Being down here at the very bottom of Florida, we got beaches and girls in bikinis, which is great, and I wouldn't trade it certainly, but it would be nice to have some real drag racing shows on a regular basis. We do have our Palm Beach International Raceway, but it does, they don't do stuff like this Funny Car Chaos thing. Sounds like very exciting and interesting, and it's the kind of thing that I think more and more promoters are doing. You just said flat out, it started from one race, and now it's 8 races, and of course, and the interest and intrigue that is growing throughout the sport of drag racing, period, is obviously spreading and benefiting people at the local level, too, and encouraging people to hey, build a car. Build a car. There'll be some place to race it, and I think that is very exciting. Marvin, great job. I appreciate you coming on. While you're on, We've had 3 races at the start of the season, the Gator Nationals, the most recent. Is there anything that sticks out in your mind that has been intriguing or interesting? You know, we know you're a mega fan.
Boy, I tell you what, the Gators that was a race I sure wish I could have been there. Man, the whole thing, I mean, where do you start? I'll tell you one of the most impressive things, getting to see Joe Castello stand there on the starting line with Lee Greenwood doing the song, man, that's hardcore.
Yeah, well, I think Louis Bloom was going to put that as number 1 in his top 5 moments, but I don't know. Somebody voted it down. But I agree. Me and Lee Greenwood, BFF.
Yep.
Yes, definitely. It was good. By the way, I didn't realize that moment had made the television broadcast until yesterday, when I watched the television broadcast and I saw the moment, me and my new BFF, Lee Greenwood, 3-time country music male vocalist of the year, Grammy Award winner, and American patriot, Lee Greenwood.
Absolutely, and you had to have gotten his autograph, right?
No, I don't. You know me, I don't do that. We shared a moment. We talked about, you know, the good times, and then we parted ways. But he did like my Instagram photo, which made me feel pretty good.
Excellent.
There it is. I was happy about that. Okay, Marvin, let's talk coffee. You're on the show.
All right.
We're always talking on a regular basis, and we might as well get some people on board with what's going on. For instance, the Funny Car Chaos Limited Reserve. It's a blend of coffee. But what does that mean? Okay, so assume there's drag racing fans out there, and they like coffee, and they go and they get their Folgers Crystals. Why is this different?
Well, first of all, fresh roasted, top 5% of the coffees grown in the world, small micro lot stuff. Think of it as the best of the best wines or micro lot, other kind of brews. We bring in the absolute best, 5 or 6 bags grown, 8 or 10, real small production. And that just puts it over the top.
Now, this Funny Car Chaos, you say it makes a great espresso or otherwise. You're a drag racing fan, and so how do you decide what goes into a blend like Funny Car Chaos?
Well, Chaos, there's a certain profile we were looking for on it, so it's actually got an estate Peruvian base coffee to it. We put a very special limited Ethiopian coffee in it. It's got some nice spiciness, and then we sweeten it up a little bit with some Central American coffee. So the way that it's blended and the degree of roast adds that smokiness to it and those nuances to it. Also, the crema developed is from the blend and the roast profile.
Well, now that's geeking out on coffee. That's exactly what I'm looking for. And I know there are people, they take their wine. You mentioned wine. They take wine very seriously. And whatever it is they're doing, they take it very seriously. And I know there are people that take coffee very seriously. So when we're talking about Rodak's coffee here on WFO Radio, we are talking about coffee very, very seriously. Now, you mentioned international blends. I see you got coffee from Costa Rica and Brazil and Guatemala, and these are not like just available any old place. That's part of the intrigue.
That's correct. The only coffee the U.S. grows is in Hawaii and some in Puerto Rico. So on the mainland, we don't. So 99.9% of the coffee is grown abroad. The coffees that we bring in, we represent all growing regions and multiple parts of the growing region with different flavor profiles and nuances to them.
Is it bad to ask who makes the best coffee? Like, is there such a thing? Of course, we hear about Colombia and all, but I hear, and I have tried, thanks to your, nurturing coffee from around the world. Our great friend Bill, who is a WFO radio listener, sent me some Kona coffee from Hawaii, and I appreciated and enjoyed that. But, is there like some place that just... For instance, they like the Napa Valley makes some of the best wine in the world, but there's also Australia, but the people in France, they claim to have the best wine. So like who legitimately claims and backs it up? Best coffee?
Joe, that's a great question. All of the coffee growing regions can produce the finest coffees in the world for their regions with those taste profiles. And it just depends on what you like in your coffee. If you like an earthy, full-bodied coffee with a little bit of funkiness to it, then those are great Indonesian coffees, and you can't go wrong with Sumatra or Sulawesi. If that's not your style and you like a little bit brighter cup of coffee with, nice body to it, chocolate nuances, then the Centrals are good with that, as well as the South Americans. So again, it depends on regional. Some of the premier coffees that are consistently year after year that we bring in through our brokers are out of Panama. Brazil has got incredible stuff. Guatemala, especially out of the Antigua region, those coffees just rock consistently year after year. Ethiopian coffees with their berryness, their fruitiness to them, their spiciness, that's old school as it gets. That's where coffee was originally discovered. So there's a lot of history and going back along with the ethnicity that the coffee producers have.
See, there's something you learn. You don't learn every day. I did not know that coffee was originated in Ethiopia.
It's where it was first discovered. It's grown around the area, and coffee started back then. The coffee bean seeds were transported around. There's even been ships and people in the old days where coffee trees would be tried to be kept alive on a ship, and they would starve the passengers for watering the coffee trees to keep them alive. There was mutiny on ships, fights on ships. People got thrown overboard. Coffee trees got thrown overboard. I mean, almost wars have broken out just over coffee over the years.
Nobody is surprised about that at all. Nobody who would like a cup of coffee in the morning is surprised about that at all, Marvin. And, of course, one more thing about Rodax that I always talk about is the hot sauces, obviously, and the grilling stuff. But you've got one of my favorite all-time hot sauces, that habanero endorphin booster. And it's kind of cool that you can get coffee and hot sauce in one spot.
Absolutely. And at this stage of the game, it's all about having the best of the best for our customers, selections, choice, and having a one-stop shop that's so different than the guy down the street. And plus being able to supply uniqueness, that special gift, and then giving the best service we can give on a one-on-one basis. I like to look at it, Joe, for coffee, for instance, we don't just sell a bag of coffee. We just take you on a journey with it.
No, I agree with that. That's part of the whole reason that I'm so into it. Because when a box shows up and I open it up, it's like, oh my goodness, you get this whole extra sensory experience. And that's why I choose to grind the coffee as opposed to getting it ground, because to me that's part of it. Everything else in life is so fast and you just go, 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 go. I can spend 30 seconds grinding my own coffee and having a little fun playing with this grinder and pouring it out. And it's an experience, and that's what I love about it. Well, hopefully everybody will. Now, Marvin, the number 817-924-6821. If they call you, are you the guy who answers? Do you have like a secretary? You got a team of secretaries there that are answering the phone for you?
You're talking to the secretary. You get me.
You have a team of receptionists. First of all, I shouldn't have said secretary. That dates me. That's very inappropriate these days. Receptionist. 817-924-6821. It's like going on a plane and calling someone a stewardess, which is, of course, it's a flight attendant. I got to get it right. I don't want to get in trouble. Marvin, thank you very much. Not to put you on the spot, but I just thought, you know what? I wanted to hear all about Funny Car Chaos. We had been communicating back and forth. And at the same time, I know that the audience would be interested as well. Like, this is the kind of thing that WFO radio listeners, they want to know about. And, this is going to happen again. So just a little bit of a tease for future events. Like, this is a local regional event that goes on that draws in some big names that burn nitro. What is better than that? I can't think of too many things.
Absolutely, Joe.
Well, all right, Marvin. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on the show. Vegas 4 wide this week, but it's going to be a while till we're down there in Texas. We got a long season to go, but I can't wait. That's always one of the highlights.
Yeah, sure look forward to it. We always have a good time, don't we?
Yes, we do. Marvin, thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe.
Marvin Rodak from RodaksCoffeeandGrills.com with us here on WFO Radio. And that's what I'm doing with my time. I thought it was great, and I saw the pictures. They're all over our Facebook page. You can check out Marvin's photos from Funny Car Chaos and great stuff. Now, I did say something that kind of misspoke in that I said it's going to be a long season before we're down there in Texas because Marvin lives in the Dallas-Fort Worth region, and that's what I was talking about. We will be in Houston not far from now. Things are going to be rolling on real quick. We're going to be in Houston and Charlotte and Atlanta coming real soon, which will be a whole lot of fun. All right, so this show has been great. Clay Millican, Tommy Johnson, Alan Reinhart, Jacob Sundstrom, Marvin jumping in there. Just great stuff. By the way, you can follow Marvin on Facebook and Twitter at A26Guy. And great stuff. Hopefully, you know, you're wondering, you're tuning in for drag racing, right? And you get this little bit of a lesson on coffee. But that, to me, is part of the great experience that is the National Hot Rod Association and the sport of drag racing in general. You have this collection of people that come together for this mutual appreciation of speed and engines and engineering and sound. And, you know, just there's a whole bunch of different reasons why people get together at the racetrack to watch drag racing and appreciate it. But they are all, in many ways, experts in their own field that are totally different than drag racing. This is the hobby. What do they do professionally? And Marvin's a great example. Like, oh, yeah, he's a drag racing fan, and he supports WFO Radio, and he sells grills and barbecue stuff. Oh, but by the way, he is extremely knowledgeable about coffee, something that most of us have on a daily basis. And so tapping into that, that's WFO. That's what we do. That's what we're all about. I like to do a little bit more. Now, here's what I was going to say about Vegas, because we're about to get up on out of here. I am headed to Jacksonville, Florida, like the second this show is done, which by the time you hear it, I will already be there and probably be gone. Now, I'm no Alan Reinhart when it comes to the travel, but I'm, getting up there, making some moves, right? Making some moves, heading into Vegas, going to be in Vegas. So this is what I wanted to say earlier, and here's what it is. One of the big moments for me last year, now I forget which Vegas race it was, spring or fall last year, I don't remember, but I do know this, that I'm on East Coast time. So when I go west, I'm up early because I'm ahead. I'm ahead of everything. And I just woke up at like 4:30 a.m. So it's 5:15. I'm ready to go out the door. And where am I going? There's nothing happening for hours. I'm ahead of the game, and I'm ready to go. So what am I going to do? And I thought to myself, this is a perfect time to do something totally out of the box. And so what I will do is I went to the Peppermill Lounge. Oh, yeah, one of my favorite places in all of Vegas. Countless movies filmed there, shot there, casino, etc. It's got the Fireside Lounge, which is in the back, where you can get an unbelievable Bloody Mary, but that's not what I did. Instead, I sat out front at the lunch counter, because it's a diner, and they have the most amazing breakfasts, and it was just awesome. So there I am at 5:45 a.m., right? One of a few people in the place, and the staff is there. They're rocking. They got the vacuums. They're cleaning, and I am at the bar. I'm just sitting at the counter, not at the bar, at the counter, drinking a coffee, reading the paper for an hour. It was awesome. It was a great experience at the Peppermill, like having a full, complete, enjoyable breakfast with coffee, sitting and experiencing Fireside Lounge at the Peppermill, just the whole thing. Before going to work, I felt like such a local, like a Vegas local, like I work there, an experience that I had never gotten as a vacationer to Las Vegas. And it was so different. It was so different. Like, I'm working in Vegas. I felt so local, even though the locals probably don't go to Peppermill Fireside Lounge. There's probably 100 other places. It's probably a tourist place, but it's been there for 100 years, and I love it, So what am I saying this for? I don't know. I think I'm going to try to redo that. I'm thinking about maybe, I don't know which day it's going to be, Friday or maybe Saturday or maybe not at all, depending on work and how late it goes and how late we're at the track. But I might be, 5:30 a.m. sitting there at the lunch counter or breakfast counter at Peppermill Fireside Lounge, just enjoying, reading the whatever it is, Las Vegas newspaper, finding out about the latest, greatest things that are going on in the City of Lights. That is Sin City, Las Vegas. All right, that's going to do it. Hey, also the autograph session, Fan Fest, that goes on at New York, New York, I think it's very cool. I went last year. It was a blast. And the thing that's really great about it is that you're still at one of the casinos, right? You're just there. You're at New York, New York. Everybody is lined out there on the Brooklyn Bridge, and it was a really fun and cool scene. So if you have never been to that, that's Thursday, you should go. Definitely check it out. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for checking out our show. Hey, quick reminder, if you love and listen to WFO Radio NHRA Nitro, you will enjoy Ignition. You will not receive all kinds of details and information about, driver interviews, but you will get a lot of information about what's going on in the sport of NHRA drag racing. We do talk a lot of Haas F1 and Formula One. If you saw the race this past weekend, it was kind of a sad experience for Ferrari and Haas F1, but a great race, a lot of passing. We do talk NASCAR, and their new rules package has made it a little more exciting, which is kind of cool. Different sport, but still a motorsport nonetheless. Sports, the opening day baseball experience that I had at Marlins Park, opening day in general, the Final Four NCAA. We're covering all of that. We're covering it. What does that mean? We're just talking about it. Sports talk. It's guide talk. We're just kicking around subjects and having a good time doing it. Our Fantasy League champion, Los Jingones, called in, and we discussed many different subjects. So if you're adding to your podcast listenership, listen to Ignition. That is part of the WFO feed, and you can get it if you download the WFO free mobile application or just subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcast. Now, that having all been said, the Factory Stock podcast we have been doing, I think it's must-listen audio. We have had 4 shows. So if you want to get in on the action, go to Apple Podcast, Factory Stock Podcast. Start at number 1. They're not 3 hours long like this. Like the max length of any show has been an hour. Longest 1 hour, shortest 29 minutes, something like that. So it's more of a quick listen, but you will get up to speed on what's up in Factory Stock and why this class, new class of drag racing, Samtech Factory Stock Showdown, has got so many people excited. The episode 4, the 4th episode, is how we would say it in English, is amazing in that you've got Drew Skillman, who won the race, and gives his details on why he left Pro Stock to go to Factory Stock and what he is so excited about with these cars and how it's a real car. This is Ford building this car, and they did some things to polish it and spiff it and make it fast. Drew Skillman, must listen to, and you will love him. But also, David Barton crashed. What happened? What happened with the car? What's going on with the car? What's the story? Which car will he race? That is all in there. Mark Powick, cowboy, comes out of retirement for this class in these big old heavy cars running 790s, 780s. What's up? 770s if you're Drew Skillman. The rules change. How will that affect everybody? All of it is covered. You can listen to episode 1, 2, 3, and 4 and get run the whole gamut of what has happened over the course of this season. And, of course, we ask you to rate and write a review. That is very helpful in the world of Apple and podcasts and all of that stuff. So a lot of great content out there. A lot of great content. Maybe you're not a fan of Nitro. Maybe you're a sportsman racer or you're a regular car guy. Well, Factory Stock Podcast. Follow along, and it's looking like we're going to get a lot of support from the people at the factories, and that's where we're going next with the next episode before Charlotte. We're going to try to connect with folks from the factories and ask them why and how and what. And if you love Factory Stock Showdown, what car can you buy? I think it's going to be great. Hey, one more thing before we get up on out of here. I just want to say what's up, feel better to Steve Brenwald. Steve answered the call a couple of months ago when, maybe it was last year even, I said, hey, do we have a graphic artist out there who wants to help out WFO Radio? And Steve answered the call, and you might have been noticing on the website or when you download the podcast some different artwork just to keep things fresh and mix it up. And Steve has been doing all of that. He is a great guy. He is a drag racing fan. He's in North Florida. He and his son went out to the Gator Nationals and are diehard fans, right? They love the sport. They are exactly what the sport is all about. A father and a son who work really hard so they can go out and enjoy NHRA drag racing on their own dime. Well, Steve has had some health issues, and I don't want to go into the detail about what they are, but I want, everyone says, sending positive energy, right? Positive thoughts out to Steve and family. Super hardworking guy, makes extra time to do our graphic art and I've loved what he's been doing, and he's been extremely helpful along the way. And I just want to say, Steve, get well, feel better, lots of positive energy going to you and the fam. Appreciate what you do and have done and will continue to do as soon as you get better. And we want you to just know that everybody here in the WFO universe, certainly in this studio, is hoping and pulling for you to make a full recovery and be out there. And thank goodness, let's put it this way, though, thank goodness you got to enjoy the 50th Amalie Motor Oil NHRA Gator Nationals, which is the last time I saw Steve. But thinking about you, Steve. All right, everybody, that is going to do it. I appreciate it. I'm headed to Vegas, baby, by way of Jacksonville. Don't forget, watch Performance TV. Performance TV, Sunday morning, Motor Trend, 8:30 a.m. Me and Kathy Fisher. Kathy Fisher, who is going to run her first PDRA race this weekend at Galat in Top Dragster. And this is called NHRA Nitro. But the day Kathy Fisher wins a Top Dragster race out there in whatever, she's coming on the show, PDRA or otherwise. Because we like our PDRA brethren over there. We just happen to focus on NHRA, but it's drag racing. And good luck to Kathy this weekend out there at Galat. For you people staying on the East Coast, you might want to head out there, say what's up to Kathy Fisher at Galat. She and Kevin are going to go out there and be racing, and I hope they bring home the trophy. Bring home the trophy. All right, that's going to do it. Thanks, everyone. See you in Vegas. Vegas, baby. Vegas.
WFO! The views and opinions of the hosts, guests, or callers do not necessarily reflect that of the station ownership, advertisers, or agencies.
I love WFO Radio. Oh, yeah.